What's up, everybody? Wolf from Walmart. We're back. We're back, baby, again.
Not a bad fish right there, guys.
No.
Out here catching Folsom bass right now, dude. Woo, he's a little chunker. What up, everybody? It is I, Dave Berkey, back again as the host of the Whole Angler Podcast. I'm actually really excited tonight. I got a buddy coming on, and we're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be really cool. I do have one order of business to get out of the way, and it's not even real business. Like, I'm actually really stoked on this. My local kayak shop, Kayak City, the sponsor of this show, is actually throwing a DIY day on December 7th, noon to 4. So it's basically in the afternoon. It's December. Tournaments are done. There's no real reason people are getting together unless they're just individually going out to fish. And this is going to kind of bring everybody together. So come on down by the shop. I mean, we're going to let you use the tools. If you got a build that you want to work on, we got all sorts of prizes and stuff, because we're going to have categories on builds like best paddle build, best pedal build, best motorized build, dirtiest kayak, star of the show, and the most unique build. So we have a lot of prizes coming in from different sponsors and stuff. It's going to be really like a blast, but it's more about coming out, having some burgers, having some bevs, and enjoying each other's company in the time where we don't really get to go fishing together. So I'm looking forward to it, and I just think I'd put it out there for the people who are in the area. Stop by, say hi, bring your kayak, and have a good time. And other than that, that's all the business end on my life right now. My life has strictly been work and business lately. I have not really had a chance to chill. I did get to go fishing the other day. It was fun. I wish I could do that more often, but right now it's the season I can't. But it is the season that I get to load up on podcasts, and I get to listen to all my friends and talk to my friends on the phone and have a good time. And speaking of doing that, tonight I get to have one of the people that I started listening to as a podcast and slowly got to build a relationship with, and now we are actual friends, and I get to actually have him on the podcast tonight. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you Bobby Roastbeef.
This is so fucking cool, man. Unbelievable. I do. And I love that you discovered the show, and that we are like, I love the fact that at any time of day I will receive a text that's hilarious from you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or
yes.
or a DM or something like that. It's awesome, Dave. This is great. I'm so happy for you too with the show, because you're kind of killing it, dude. You're doing great. Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank really.
You. Yeah. So Bobby, let's first and foremost, I did want to put this out there before we get into the show. You had me and you interviewed me on your show about this time last year. No, but the summer, I think.
Yeah, it was a little bit longer than that, I think. Yeah.
Something like that. It was after February. I know that because that's when we actually got to meet and talk and hang out. But I had said that we were talking about kayaks, and I said one day I'd like to have a PWR, the bona fide PWR I would love to have it. Well, in doing this podcast and having it sponsored by Kayak City, sitting directly behind me is a full rigged bona fide PWR.
That's awesome, dude.
It's kind of like
dope.
It's a full circle moment for me emotionally in my garage. I'm like, dude, this is so cool, because you were the guy I talked to about it, and then we're here now. So
it's amazing, and it says something too. Like you do a lot with Kayak City, and when a company believes in what you're doing to that level where they're sticking themselves out, to help you, it's awesome, dude. It's so kudos to you. That's freaking huge.
Thank you, man. All right. So one more thing. I don't edit the show. So
that's all right. I don't do a whole lot of editing either.
No, I know. I'm just saying before I do something like I always have to mute my mic if I'm burping, because I always forget.
Gotcha.
So just hear me in the background like. So yeah.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Dude. Bobby, it is time to talk about you, dude. You were not born with a rod in your hand. So where, when, how?
Yeah, not really. I was like, it's funny because I thought my dad was like the most amazing outdoorsman ever. But I did not have a scope of what like outdoorsman, like there was no timeline for any of that or any type of lineup like that. So my dad, I knew he loved to hunt and fish. And he had gotten me out fishing at like I remember there was a picnic, a family picnic, a get together, and I was probably like 4 or 5 years old, maybe something like that. And I still will actually go to this pond every once in a while, and it is straight booty. It's terrible, but I would go and he taught me how to fish. Starting out with a spin casting setup and all that, and then I learned how to use a spinning combo. And my dad was big on trout fishing because of the there's like this I heard Joe Cermelli one time say refer to the stocked trout culture. That's a real thing on the East Coast. I don't know if it's like that everywhere necessarily. I'm thinking maybe it might be a little bit.
Yeah.
But that was my fishing. It was fishing eagle claw snell hooks with, night crawlers or mealworms or, salmon eggs or something like that. And if we were real lucky, we'd get some shiners, and I didn't catch a lot for multi-species because we fished a lot of stocked water. And I wasn't great at it. That style of fishing, we still fish to this day, my dad and I, which is awesome. I'm stoked. But we fish very different from one another. He still likes to throw a line and just kind of relax and disconnect. And that is for sure a way of fishing that I enjoy from time to time, but not as my primary method, I can remember when I was a kid, he had this huge 3-tier tackle box. You open the front cover and you open up, there's 3 levels that fold out. And it was chock full of all kinds of stuff. And it was kind of like a crawler style topwater bait that was in there. And it was designed like a bat. And not that long ago, he gave me that lure. When they were packing up their house to move, my sister had built an in-law apartment for him. They were moving in there, and he was downsizing. And he's like, I got a bunch of old lures, some real old balsa stuff, real old. So I'm trying to hang on to that kind of stuff because eventually I want to create a Jigs and Bigs studio and have all of this stuff on display. So no, I'm not fishing with that stuff or anything, but he had all this stuff. So I knew it existed. We'd go to the the sporting goods store and, we'd look at all kinds of shit. And, I like to fish. I just wasn't very good at it. I was yeah, it's just, man, I don't think it's really for me. I'll fish, And then when I got to be in middle school, early high school age, I had a group of friends that same thing. They were quasi into the outdoors a little bit, something like that. And we would go and take one of their uncle's boats or whatever and, paddle out to the middle of this pond and try and catch them. And we had no business doing that kind of stuff at all. Ice fishing played a little bit of a role when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
But this was a totally different era, man. You used to be able to drive a truck on the ice out here, have a fire going, the whole night. Yeah, dude.
A fire on the ice?
Yeah.
Oh, you're nuts, dude. I'd be so afraid.
Now I wouldn't. No way. No way. But it was we'd catch, yellow perch and stuff like that. And it was fun, and then I just kind of fell out of it. I got really into punk rock and fucking playing shows and booking shows and shit like that. And I got really, really into that. A bunch of other hobbies kind of came my way for a while I was, still kind of into the outdoors. I got really heavily into archery, heavy into it. Yeah.
Not compound bows, yeah, or okay.
Oh yeah. I would go in my backyard and I would just shoot arrow after arrow after arrow, and just that's what I would do. I took a girl on a date one time to an indoor archery range.
Yes. Yeah. Did you tell her it was a Cupid date or?
No, I was just hey, why don't we go do this? And she was like, okay. But if you knew the school I was going to at the time, that wouldn't shock you.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just, it was I got into it, and then I got, like I said, I got more into music and stuff, and I started my first business when I was 16. It was a DJ business. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just, I started doing school events, and eventually, I remember I did my first wedding when I was maybe 18 years old, something like that. It was crazy. It was a shit show. but I learned and stuff, and I just, it's crazy because I got to be in like my mid-20s, and my best friend in life had inherited his grandparents' house. They basically raised him.
Yeah.
And this house was on a private lake.
Oh.
I lived there for a year. I never fished it.
Oh.
Too busy doing drugs and getting fucked up and playing music. Oh my God, my band used to rehearse there. It was great. It was great. Oh, we had such a good time. And that house has a lot of memories. I started dating my wife when I lived there. And we conceived our firstborn at that house.
Nice, dude.
And did you listen, Dave, to the episode where we talked about the spooky stories?
Yes.
We did. So that whole instance with that Virgin Mary statue, that happened at that house.
Oh, yeah. Yes, dude. Yes. Oh,
it was terrible. It was terrible.
Yes. Go ahead. I was just to say, there's a lot there, and I kind of want to unravel just a little bit because there's so many layers. And pardon the pun or whatever metaphor. There's so many layers to Bobby roast beef. I want to get into it just a little bit more because you were saying you're a kid, and fishing, here and there, but you said you got into music and bands and playing punk rock music. Like, what instrument did you play? How did you find it? Like, where did that drive? Like, because as an angler, you have a passion, and your passion isn't always angling to begin with and or end with. So how did that drive you? Like, where'd you go with that?
So I remember I was like a junior in high school, and I was really into like the extremes of music, metal and hip hop. You know what I mean? And same. Yeah. And it was the perfect sort of situation. I had family that were like into one cousin specifically that I really kind of learned about, just not just punk, but like alternative music as a whole. I really kind of got a good introduction to it. And I was like, oh, all right, this is fucking cool. I thought this guy was awesome. And he is. I see my cousin Adam rarely. He's very, very, very elusive. He avoids social gatherings and things like that. So when I get to see him, it's a treat.
Yeah.
So, I was aware of a lot of this at that time. And when I was, like I said, I started my first DJ company when I was in high school. I was 16. So I was just a fan of music as a whole. And then I met a dude that had transferred to our school, right? And he was really into specifically hardcore. And he introduced me to some bands like I had just never even heard of. Like I was aware of like Sick of It All and Biohazard and some of those bands from New York City and things like that. Like I was totally into that shit.
Super tight. I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt, but Biohazard was like, I remember just screaming the song "Fuck the Rules" for like years.
Oh my God, dude, so good, dude.
Yes.
So
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but continue. Yeah.
But like he introduced me to like a whole other like circle of stuff. And I started going to my first my first shows with him. And this was like right as I graduating out of high school. It was weird. When I got to that point in high school, like I had tried to fit in so much with like a group, you know what I mean? Like I did the shit that I wanted to do, but when I got bored, I was out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I get
was
it. Like, I get it.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm just out. But I was always like, when I got to be like a senior in high school, I didn't give a fuck anymore. I was just like, whatever, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to, it was that, sort of like, I really kind of embodied the whole, like, no, these are my rules kind of thing for my own life. Yeah. And that probably was not what my folks wanted to hear. That
I don't think any folks want to hear that.
No, not at all. Especially when I told them go to and they're like, what?
What?
Yeah.
Sorry, your internet jumped real quick. You said you were about to go where?
Oh, I went to college for broadcasting. Like I told them, I wanted to, my goal was to be on the radio. That was like my vision. When I tell people that I was a DJ, and I have a DJ business and stuff, they're all like, "Oh, you must just idolize like Jam Master Jay and DJ Jazzy Jeff and everything." And I'm like, "That's great. I'm a Wolfman Jack kind of guy."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. So I want
to be a disc jockey. I
really wanted to be in radio. I really, like, genuinely.
Yeah.
And then I found out what kind of life you could live in with a career in radio, and I discovered to shift gears and go into television instead. And that's a whole other conversation. But when I was in school, I got into college radio, which was actually I was really lucky. This was they considered a community radio station. And it had very little to do with the school other than the fact that it resided there. But it was a 10,000 watt radio station that was high up in our city. Like I was in Springfield, Massachusetts, and you could hear this radio station in New Haven, Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
Like there was reach, dude. There was reach. And yeah, it got nuts. I was going to shows. I was discovering all of this music and everything. And I was like, man, I want to be in a band so badly. Like I just wanted to be on stage. Yes. And a couple of attempts with like stupid shit. Like I didn't play any instruments at the time. Mm-hmm. And then there was one time I was messing around with some friends of mine that were just kind of jamming a bit. And I got behind a drum kit. My father was a drummer, but I just never thought I had it. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, well, I guess I don't have it, whatever. And I started just like laying down some like simple stuff. And I was like, huh. All right. And that I fell as into fishing as I am. I was probably about 5 times as into playing drums. And I am not good at it. I'm straight up. I am not good at it. I have played in so many bands and I've been kicked out of so many bands because, I've got a great sense of timing and I've got a amazing ability to recover. But when people make fun of Lars from Metallica?
Yes.
What Lars goes off script a lot.
Yes.
And sometimes it just doesn't work. I feel Lars. I feel that. But the man's an icon. You know what I mean? He's absolutely an icon. There's no denying that. And a lot of people would love to have me in the band to like run their band. Plus I was booking shows.
That's like I was get into that.
Yeah, dude, I was booking shows at like a small juice bar, VFWs and things like that. And people fucking love that shit. Oh yeah, we're putting a show together. Great. How's it going to work? And some of these were huge. Like some of these were really fantastic shows. Shit that I couldn't believe like a 22-year-old kid could pull off.
Dude, I was wondering, I was like, did you go like full guerrilla style? Like just walk up and be like, hey, I got this band. We're going to kill a show. We want to do it here. Like, how did that work? Because like
that's
this
exactly
is the basis for promotion. Like this is how you got to do promotion. So
yeah, you just gotta, and a lot of it was like flyers and like hanging them up everywhere they could possibly be seen and passing them out at other shows where like you were playing. Like we'd go to these other spots and that's how it was. And then like you learn later on, like, oh, well, if I talk to, if I get friendly with a band and like on the internet, like people talk about like MySpace bands and stuff. That was amazing. That was like a digital version of Book Your Fucking Life. Have you ever heard of that zine?
No.
Book Your Fucking Life? Oh,
no.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah. It basically was like the yellow pages, like the phone book for everybody who did anything that was in the punk, like niche. Yeah. Really? Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I believe there was a section where it was like, hey, if you're touring and you're going through like Springfield, here's some people who have opened up their home so you can crash there.
Oh my gosh. That's
shit like that. Yeah, it was like, and you want to talk about like inspiring, but like as just some fucking flunky, dipshit.
Bro, you're right. 22. That's awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's funny in a way, there's an element to that combines with fishing. Because one of the things that I talk about a lot, because I did come back into fishing later in life in my 30s. And again, like I realized, I was like, there's something else going on here that I'm just never really had that exposure to. And I figured I would look at bass fishing specifically. And when a lot of people ask me, they're like, oh yeah, you want to get somebody interested in fishing for the first time, you send them out for bluegill? I was like, no, send them out for bass. They're easy to handle. They're hardy, they can take it, and they're fun, and they're easy to catch. Oh, yeah. They eat it all. They're savages. So I was like, there's something here. Well, one of the things that really inspired me to get into fishing, and this is fucking kind of cringy, I think, for someone my age. Pre-Guggen Squad, John B. and Alex Perrick did something called the Never Stop Tour. And it was like the two of them, they went from like the Midwest, like Illinois, I guess, or something. They went into Canada and fished like Lake of the Woods and like crazy shit like that. But they were just going, and this was like, you say like guerrilla style, like that inspired the shit out of me. I was like, that is awesome. And I can remember the moment when I first saw that video. I was at the gym at a time in my life where I was at the gym. I used to be fatter, is what I like to tell people. So I was at the gym, and I was watching on my phone this series, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to travel. I want to travel. I want to fish. And I was just at this point, like starting to learn some like techniques. Like I had just recently learned how to fish with jigs, and I was developing confidence with them, you know? And so it was weird. There was this sort of like connection to like, oh yeah, I want to go because I wanted to go on tour. You know what I mean? That's why I wanted to play music. I wanted to go on tour. I wanted that experience.
Yes.
And it's like I was like, holy shit, that's fucking cool. Like that's awesome. And in that moment, there was a little bit of regret because I was like 40. And I'm like discovering this, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. My life's half over. You know what I mean? And it's only gonna get harder the longer that I wait. So since then, I've had this like carpe diem with fishing. Like I have this. It's when I started fishing again, I was fishing with my buddy Paul. I am all over the place, dude. I apologize.
No. It's all good. No, dude, I'm listening. I keep mental notes. I got ADHD, squirrel brain. I'm all the way in the back.
I just want to let your listeners know that as a degenerate that I am, I had a pretty sizable edible on the drive when I got back to my house, and it hasn't even really kicked in. Just saying, buckle up. So
I'm here for it. Let's go.
And I feel like it's shit like that I'm like, you know, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to travel. I wanted to do all this shit. There was this connection. And, you know, got this attitude of like very much like seize the day, because tomorrow is never promised. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We are obviously, I think most people see that, though it's not always apparent. So I was like, I want to make sure that I go and do some of these things. And I had this goal when I started fishing again, that like by the time I'm 50, I'm going to go and I'm going to take a 2-week long trip to like a destination body of water. And I was like, maybe I'll go to a place like, you know, Minnesota that's got, you know, land of 10,000 lakes. We'll just try them all. You know what I mean? And I gotta tell you, I'm not waiting until I'm 50. I'm already kind of doing it.
Yeah.
Just in a better way, I think, than making it 2 weeks and that's it. Nope. I'm living it. So like, you know, I'm really, really lucky that I get out to fish as much as I do. I hate when I hear like you, when you're like, oh yeah, I only get to get out once this week. And I'm like, nope, I make it in the summer. I make it a point to be out 4 days a week.
Oh yeah.
I make it a point. It's an addiction, man.
No, honestly, it's super inspiring to me too. It is an addiction. The tug is the drug, like 1000%. But no, it's super inspiring to me to watch you do that, because it doesn't just give me like that hope, because our children are definitely different ages, you know, and I'm in the thick of it now, and so I know I'm going to be strapped down, but watching you be able to do this, I'm like, dude, there is a time I will have that time. I get to watch Bobby do this, which means someday I get to do this, and you know, it's super inspiring that way. Which
I never thought about like that,
you know.
That's
a lot of us that are like my buddy Andy. Like we have kids about the same age. We're both just kind of like trying to get it in when we can for now. But down the line, you are showing us that it is totally possible to be like, all right, babe, like I'm gone for 3 days. See you later. And it worked
I'm
out,
lucky,
you know?
in that department, man. I am so lucky, because like just recently, my wife says to me, we're on our way somewhere. We're in the car. And I mentioned something about fishing. I was out with Binny Outdoors, and I just caught a new PB smallmouth.
Yes.
And like, I was still like 3 days afterwards, dude, I was like riding high on it. I was like, this is fucking awesome. Just rocked my world. That fish came from out of nowhere. And I was just like, did not expect it. And I said to my wife, and we was telling her something about it. I could tell I got like the eye roll, like, oh geez, you know, here he goes. And I realized that she says to me, she goes, I wish I had something in my life that I was like that into for that long of an amount of time where I could dedicate that to it. And I started thinking about like there's stuff that she'll pick up. Like she picked up knitting, and like she does it once in a while now, but like there isn't anything like that. And I think that you need to indulge a little bit in life and let yourself have those things, in a healthy way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't do anything healthy, but I try.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't want to run out and go like, oh, I just think I'm so passionate about a black tar heroin. I think that might be my thing. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, dude, but you're describing passion. Like you're defining passion. Like me and my wife have this conversation often because before I was into fishing, I was into skateboarding, and she's really into running. She's a runner and like healthy person. Yeah. She's into health and running, and I'm into like not lightweight degeneratism or whatever. And
you told me some stories about the shit you were into. I get it.
Yes,
I get it.
Yeah. So
I don't know what that lighter weight was called at the bar, but I remember that story specifically.
So I'm in the lightweight category of degenerate in my life now.
Yeah.
But she has a passion, and when I got into fishing, like she was so excited because I had something like fired up in me, and I wasn't like, let's hang out, let's do this, or like just sitting around the house, like kind of like what you're explaining, busy activity, keeping myself, active, or keeping myself just moving until bedtime. Like I have something that like I literally wake up and it is on my mind, and I think about it all day. Yeah. And then when I'm not doing it, and then when I am doing it, it's the time where my brain gets to shut off, and I get to put all that focus and all that feeling into that action, which is super cool. It's relieving in a way that it's hard to explain, but that's
I get that. I get that, man. That I 100% get it. I will tell you, like this is how I know that I am just so fucking into this. So I'm going to assume when you catch a good one, you got a couple of friends in your phone contacts that you send them a picture like, yo, right?
Yep.
Do you ever think, and you're like if they're at work that day, they're at work or something, do you ever feel like I'm fucking their day up? Like I'm doing, this is gonna, they're gonna be stoked for me, but they're not really gonna care. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm fully of the mentality of like, I'm about to piss this fool off.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Yep. I'm not that guy. I can be like DJing a wedding.
Yeah.
And I will receive a text from one of my friends catching them. And I'm like, oh yeah, does not ruin my day at all. For sure makes me wish I was out fishing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
we're like, I've got a friend of mine specifically that I send pictures to all the time. And I'm like, I'm the worst. Because we're talking like he'll get random fish pics at like whatever, like twice a week. And he's just, we get it.
Yeah.
Like he would never say anything, but I'm like, I'm ruining his fucking situation.
I was originally trying to send them to my wife on a regular basis. I don't know about you, but I was like super excited.
That's a terrible idea. Yeah.
No, it was great at first, and then she stopped sending pics, and I was like, all right. So I started sending her.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I started sending her like, illicit pics, and she's all, please stop now. So now there's a no picture like clause in our relationship.
No MMS messages, please. None.
Yeah. Just Instagram repost, please. Yeah. Oh. No. So, okay, jumping back a little bit more. You were, doing the band thing because you really wanted to tour. You were really passionate about getting up and being in front of people. You wanted to do radio, but you somehow landed in television.
Yeah. So I had, when I was in college, I went for like mass media broadcasting. So like it was all like one umbrella type situation. Right. And a lot of the courses would interact for whatever it is, especially the journalism stuff and things like that. So I can remember this one class. My professor is Marsha Pitts Phillips, and she was like, so where in broadcasting do you want to work? And there was like a guy that I had done some work with a community television station before. And this he was my age and was like, could sit down in front of like a video switcher and direct a live, broadcast without like fucking up terribly. You know what I mean? Like he could do this already. He was directing this stuff like for the town, where we were. So like there would be a concert or something like that. And he was the guy directing the whole thing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's crazy. So he had some real direction. And I was like, well, what? I'm like, obviously he's passionate about this. I was like, I think, the thing I'm really focused on is radio as a media. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as the weeks went on in that class, it was kind of conversated about that. If you're going to definitely have a side hustle if you work in radio. What they don't tell you is the same thing is true for TV, which is maybe not as severe a side hustle, because you don't make shit in radio. You just don't.
Yeah.
And you have to go to like, this huge market in order to be able to make a living. But the cost of living in that area is going to be, on the same scale.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a mess. So I made the decision. I was just like, I'm going to get into television. I had worked in restaurants mainly like this whole time, in the background. Like that's what I was doing. That was my regular job,
You're a chef or
line cook, dishwasher, like stuff like that. I'm talking like sophomore year of high school through like when I got into college. I worked some retail too. Actually, I say that when I got out of high school, that's when I met Sean the Fisherman. Was working at an appliance store.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we were working in an appliance store, selling all kinds of electronics and stuff. And I had weaseled my way into working in like the car audio home theater department. And I was doing sales like right out of high school. And I was living this amazing life,
Yeah.
amazing life. And
right out of high school sales job, like sales is good money, especially when you're
if you can do it. Yeah. My
Yeah.
big thing was at this time, dude. So I'm going to date myself. My biggest thing was selling cell phones, which was like the hot new technology.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Like I came from a time when I was in high school, we had beepers, you know?
Yeah. Same. Yep.
And
not pagers, beepers. I got it.
Yeah.
I relate.
And we're like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and sell cell phones. This is great. And this is like you could buy a cell phone for a penny, but they got like your next 10 years of your income or something. Like it was ridiculous, the contract people would sign. And but the money was great. Like I think for every one that I sold for a penny, assuming they got approved and the line went out the door, I made $10 as a commission. And
wow.
I could sell hundreds of them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because this was at a time where I was like, holy shit. So I was doing all right. I felt pretty damn good,
Yeah.
It was just like I was working and doing some events as a DJ. And that was about the point like in there where I started going to shows and like really getting heavy into it. Yeah, dude. I say I haven't lived like a super interesting life, but I feel like when you look back at this stupid little stuff like that, I really have lived like a Kevin Smith storyline in a lot of ways.
Yes, dude. Yes. No, dude, this is super interesting. Like you have very much lived an interesting life and you're only 22.
So, I mean, that was the whole thing. So that was my goal was always, it was like, yeah, radio, that's the move. That's what we want to do. Yeah. I had a real interesting internship in college where I had, I had looked at, I had interned at a couple of different spots just for the experience so I could put something on my resume so that I could get a job, And I didn't even need the credits. I was like, yeah, I'll intern for you. I was like, wherever I get the best grade, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And like, I'm the kind of guy that like, I went to a trade school. I did not give a shit about academics. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I hated taking tests. I hated paperwork, anything like that. Still do. Mm-hmm. And, I had this sort of drive to really be in this business. And there was a company that had started, this was in like the late 90s. So it actually might have been about 96, mid 90s, something like that. There was a drink that was going around in like gas stations and shit like that. And it was caffeinated bottled water.
Oh yes.
It was called Crank 2.0.
Yes. Yep.
And I was I was an idiot. And we would like take this stuff and like make coffee with it or make mac and cheese with it and shit like that. And I was looking at the bottle and I realized that they were in the city where I was going to school. So I made a television commercial for them. Like I just produced it, and I was like, "Listen, like I'm looking for some internship credits. Come take a look what I got." And they're like, "Yeah, we'll come right by." So they come over and bring them up. I show them everything. They're like, "This is unbelievable." They're like, "The problem is that we can't afford to put this on TV, just because the budget wasn't like there." They're like, "So we're doing a lot of like radio stuff and trade deals and things like that." They're like, "Could you write something for us like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I said, I'll put something together. So I wrote up a script that was a 4 voice script, right? There was a lead male character, a lead female character, and then 2 different announcers. I got the opportunity to go to a couple of radio stations and see how the production was actually done with like contemporary, like modern gear and stuff like that, and actually see this. And one of these trips, we actually were in the building when Slash from Slash's Snake Pit. Dude, have you ever heard of these? They were on Sirius or XM, like Opie and Anthony. You ever hear of those dudes?
I've heard of them. I never listened to them, but yeah.
So they were in Boston for a while at a radio station, and we had to. I remember the day, like it was snowing, it was ridiculous, and we're like, "Oh, we're supposed to record at AAF today," and I was like, "You bet your sweet ass we're going." So we all like crammed into this Chrysler LeBaron. It was just, dude, it was the sketchiest shit. It was so sketchy. We drove out to the WAF studios and we recorded this commercial, and like the production guys were dying laughing from the commercial. They were like, "This is great. This is great." And like it was great. So I was like, this is awesome. Like I would love to make this my career. How can I do that? And then I chased a career in broadcasting. I worked 20 years in master control at our local NBC affiliate here, which then eventually turned into like an operations position, managing and like running the content for, I think when I left, it was like 11 or 13 different stations that are around the country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was fucking insane. Yeah, it really was. And so, it was just, it was like, got to a point where I was like, I have to stop. I hated the job so badly. Working for somebody else. I hated it, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, there's no creativity here whatsoever. Yeah. Nothing at all. And I'm like, yeah.
Your DJ, I hate to interrupt, but so you're still DJing, right? Like you're still doing.
I am. That's my current job. Is I have
I'm saying during that whole process. Were you still doing? Yeah. So you had like a creative outlet, right? Yeah. So you still had samples of what life could be like without being under somebody else's thumb. That's
and
awesome.
I was playing music. Like I was playing drums and I was doing like, weddings. I was working for another company at this time, learning like a lot of this shit. And don't get me wrong, like I loved my job until about like 2007. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I was all in on my job till about like 2007. And it got to be about what I got married in 2009. Mm-hmm. And I mean, my daughter was born in 2004, and I was like, I just got to see like the writing was kind of on the wall that like this was nothing. You know what I mean? Like I'm never going to be able to command like how my time is used. You know what I mean? Yep. Like I was going to be stuck chasing this lineup of stuff. And I wasn't into that. And I should say, like, my father had, at this point, been working and doing his own business for quite some time. He worked for a company that did like a lot of maintenance and, businesses and things like that. And he saw a gap where they weren't offering a service. And he went to the owner and was like, "Hey, look, if I start offering this service, is this something that's going to be a conflict?" He was like, "Not at all. We want nothing to do with that." So he was like, all right, sounds good. So he started doing that. And eventually he started doing his own stuff and was expanding. He recently retired too, which I know he's psyched, but
congratulations to that, man. That's the goal right there. But.
So it's like, it's one of those things where we, I saw that like I could realistically, if I could figure out something to do. Now, I should say that there was a time, and I guess it was about 2001 maybe, where I stopped DJing. I got out of it and I was focusing solely on playing music. And I had gotten to a point where I was starting to realize like I'm getting older. You know what I mean? It's 2003. We're pregnant with my firstborn. You know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, things are going to have to change a little bit here. And they did. I mean, I still kind of like, I played in bands and stuff like that. But I was like, it was tough, dude. It was a grind back then. Like I was working full time in television. I would gig. And then I had a side job where I used to clean a urology office.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I remember one time a story that my a bass player, Matt Silverstein, we were playing in this like indie alternative band, and he told me one time, he goes, yeah, he's like, when we leave a show and you're like, hey, I got to get back into town because I gotta take care of urology and then hit the road. He goes, I just imagine you like going to this office and like lugging around buckets of piss, And I'm like, bro, what is wrong with you? He's like, I don't know. I go, I clean like the waiting room and I take out the trash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was one of those things where like, and this was at a weird time in my life too, because right before my daughter was born, my wife now, but back then we were just dating, my girlfriend, she dumped me. She was the worst. Yeah.
Oh.
So we weren't together for like the first 2 years of my daughter's life. Oh, okay. So on the weekends, I'm balancing playing a show with the band and then taking my oldest, taking Chloe, and then spending the weekend with her, and it was crazy. It was nuts.
Dude, plus you have a full-time job and another part-time job and a night hustle at the time. Like,
yeah,
dude, that's so much. Like you were just constantly moving.
Yeah.
I don't know how you I mean, if it was me, it'd be a whole lot of drugs. I don't know how else I'd keep moving after that, dude.
It was something, man. I'll tell you. Yeah. So, I mean, like it's crazy. My wife and I ended up getting back together and we're like, because we only got pregnant like within a few months of meeting.
Oh,
we hadn't been together a long time or anything like that. Like I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy. And obviously you raise a kid together, you fucking learn who these other people are. And I think we got really lucky because we're a good fit. We're a really good match. So we got together, and this is right again. This is like right about that time where I was just like, man, I'm really fucking sick of this job, but I have to, like I don't really see an alternative.
Yeah.
And then we bought a house in 2011, and that's when I got really real.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was like, shit, how are we going to make this happen? And I decided, I had a friend a coworker that was getting married, and she was like, hey, you used to DJ and do weddings and stuff. Are you interested? And I'm like, I would love to be. Yeah, absolutely. And I was like, you know what? I think that's what I got to do. So like a phoenix, I rose from the flames.
Like a phoenix, I rose from the ashes.
And it was actually then that Bobby Roastbeef was like born, was right there. Cause I was like, I needed to market myself.
Yes.
It was like really in that instance where it was like, yeah, this is something I'm leaning on, cause it was a name I had bounced around a lot, like previously.
Yeah.
But it was in that moment I was like, this might be the thing. And it ended up being the thing. Like, and DJing was a grind. Like it would be great when I would have like a referral for a wedding or something like that. But those like marketing myself was tough. So I went back to the bars, man. And I started doing like all request nights and everything. And it like, dude, it's hard to get people to show up for an event where you're playing other people's music.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Dude, it really is. And like, I mean, when I see like even like bands like tribute acts or cover bands and stuff like that, like, dude, they're fucking, they're there because they really fucking love it, because they're getting fucked bad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They really are. So, you know, I was doing all this, and this was about the point where trivia kind of entered the scope, because, and that was a game changer. Like, I have a tattoo on my arm that is of the Roman goddess Trivia, because like that's how much like hosting trivia has changed my life entirely.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. Like, I was fishing, like, at this point, you know, we had the house and everything, because again, I bought the house. I was like, I need a hobby that's cheap. And I was, you know, I was fishing, and I was like, I was frustrated with it for a little bit. I had put it down, and then I came back to it, and it was trivia that kind of did that too. So what happened was, I was like, I got to do something different. I got to do something different than go out to market myself, you know? And my biggest asset, like I said, is a DJ. I'm not the club guy. I'm more of that Wolfman Jack. You know what I mean? It was like using a microphone. Like, when I started, it used to terrify me. You know what I mean? Now it's the most natural thing. I have my phone, a microphone in front of me more during the week than I do my phone.
Huh.
Which is insane.
That's,
you know what
nuts.
I mean? Yeah.
That's nuts. I have my phone a lot.
So I mean, it really is. I mean, and I do too. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes I'm holding the mic. Like, it's at least 2 hours a day I have a microphone in front of me. At least. It's crazy. So it's just something that like I got really used to. And I said, well, I got to find a way to utilize that, to show that off. And the idea of hosting trivia was there. But this was right around the time when the iPhone had just come out. You know? The original Androids from Motorola and stuff. And I'm like, look, these people are walking around with little computers, and they're probably like, everybody's going to cheat. Will people really show up for this? I don't know. And I was always looking for some kind of a product that would like get it, like make it happen. And everything I saw was just totally underwhelmed with. And I came across this company called Speed Quizzing, and that I was like, this I could probably get behind, because it utilized a phone. It utilized that technology. There was an app to download, and people would connect via a Wi-Fi router in order to have their phone talk directly to my computer. And I'm like, okay, this is something I could do. And it was a grind, dude. Like, it was a grind. It's weird we're having this show tonight too, because when my first ever game, like my official first ever game in public, advertising it, was at the bar I left tonight.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
what?
But this is what's weird. Tonight was my last night at that bar.
What?
Yeah. So the way it would go is, I found this company, Speed Quizzing. I was floored with it. I was like, this software is amazing. And I found I would use it and practice with it a little bit with like groups of friends and stuff. And like, they're not trivia people. Like, they don't get it. But I was like, there's something here. So I started doing an event, and then I would have like somebody ask me about hosting, like working for their wedding. And they're like, well, you know, a lot of people ask, can I come to an event and see what you do? And I'm like, that's a private event. No, it doesn't work that way, but come to this restaurant at this time.
Yeah.
And I'm here doing whatever. And then I would, boom, well, all of a sudden now I'm getting a deposit for a wedding, and I'm getting paid to do trivia. And I wasn't charging much at all for this, because I was like, I just need to get it to catch. And when it did, it was game over. Like, it was probably the biggest relief was, and at the time that I was grinding this out, trying to make it happen, I had pretty much given up playing music at this point, for the most part, hosting trivia. It was something. And it was, you know, what was interesting about it was, I'll never fucking forget this. I went with, so at the tail end of when I was playing live music, I was playing a lot of blues music. I was just so into it, you know?
Yeah.
And there was a dude that used to play harp in a couple of different bands that I would go and either play with like regularly or go to jams with. And he and I went to go see a band one time at this spot. And we went to go grab a couple of drinks, because we could park in their parking lot if we went in for drinks afterwards. It'd validate our parking. I was like, all right, that's cool, whatever. So we go in, we order a couple of beers, and we're walking in. And he says to me, he goes, dude, he goes, but is hosting like trivia in bars and restaurants, like, is that actually like scratching the itch to perform? And I'm like, oh yeah, 100% it does. And then as like we walked into this bar, and it was a bar where I hosted trivia normally, like on a Monday or a Wednesday or something, and we're all there on a Saturday night going in, and it's friggin' butt to nut in there. It is so packed. We go walking in. As we walk in the door, there's these group of college kids that come by, and they're like, Bobby Roastbeef, you like do stuff? Oh my god. Like, and he was like, holy fucking shit. And I'm like, not that means shit. I'm just a guy. You know what I mean? That like they know from a thing they like to do. That's it. But I was kind of like, this is fucking kind of what, and it was just the perfect sort of instance where I was like, I'm telling you, Lenny, this fucking does scratch the performance itch 100%. He's seen me do my game show and stuff since then. He's like, all right, I think I kind of understand it.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, he's from another generation too, though. That's where things get kind of nuts. But dude, yeah, it got to the point where like, I didn't even realize I was being paid from the TV station anymore. Like I was making the primary amount of money from hosting, from my business, from events, you know, going and doing that. And I was like, I told my wife, I was like, the next time my boss says something to me that I don't like, I'm gonna fucking quit. She goes, really? And I was like, yeah.
And that day came. That will just pop off at the mouth. And you're like, all right, dude, you do it later.
It wasn't as dramatic. It was like an annual review. And he was like, it was the regular compliment sandwich.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, all right. Yeah, he's just a yes man, and like he's just doing his job. But I'm like, okay, all right. And then he asked me to do something. He was like, yeah, he's like, it's just, you know, just if you could eliminate like, you know, sending an email for your your side business and stuff like that. He always used to joke and say your side hustle, you know. And he's like, if you could avoid doing that or taking a phone call or something, you know, when you're in here, just it doesn't look right. I was like, no, I understand, man. I was like, he'll tell you what. I will guarantee I don't answer my phone again if you can make it worth it for me to not pick up that phone for that private booking. Yeah. And he was like, well, what are we talking about here? And I'm, to a fault, I oftentimes am too fucking fair. You know what I mean? To a fault.
Yeah.
So I say to him, I go, well, I give him a number, and he literally laughs at me, and I just smiled, and I was like, all right, knowing I was going to print out that Google Docs document when I got home and hand it to him the next morning.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it was the most like biggest weight off my shoulders ever.
Oh, dude.
Ever.
Freedom, dude. Yeah. Freedom. Yeah. Finally. 20 years.
Yeah.
And then 20 years. Zero minimal acknowledgement, and like definitely not working in what you are passionate about. Is not a passion project. You are fully in your passion project, doing trivia and DJing private events. And oh hell yeah.
And we're living a better life, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like it was awesome. Like I've been doing this now, working for myself for 8 years now. So when my oldest was 12 and my youngest was 6, you know, that's when I started working for myself. And I think that those are pretty crazy years, especially with girls, you know?
Yeah.
Especially, you know, and like, I think that I am a better father for it, you know, because I was the one that was like, yeah, I'm going to bring them to school and I'm going to do this. And because my flexibility all of a sudden was there, you know?
Yep. You're there. You're there for them.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, you know, during the day, I don't have to worry about anything. It's because I set my schedule so I can make it happen, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was using Zoom way before the pandemic.
Oh, really?
Way before the pandemic.
You were Zooming for your
like meetings, prep meetings and stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's great.
I would work with a couple, and also eventually like the software company that makes the trivia software that I use, they brought me on as like the rep for the US. So like building hosts and like, you know, selling it, the product and trouble support and all of that shit. It's crazy. But that is like that's like an on-call thing. Like I might not get a phone call for like 2 weeks, and then it will ring like nonstop for the next 3 days. So it's always crazy.
Just answer the phone. It's just an update, dude. Relax, click. It's just an update, dude.
I swear that is my life.
Yeah.
Like, have you cleared both public and private permissions for your firewall? Oh, you haven't. Oh, you've been using this product for 8 years. All right. Good luck. Have a great show.
That's awesome. So in all this, like, I know you as the host of Jigs and Bigs. Like, that's how I know you. Where does all that fit in? Was it like that radio itch that you really wanted to scratch, or was it like that fishing and you just wanted to talk about it? And how did that lay out for you?
It was a wild thing because I knew very well that podcasting was like the radio that I wanted to do. You know what I mean? The problem is that the return on investment is very, very poor. You know what I mean? When you get into this, like, most podcasts don't last very long. And I've started multiple podcasts. The guy that I had roomed in his house on that lake.
Yeah.
He and I had a podcast shortly after I started working for myself. And we would just kind of like riff on news topics and things like that, and have a conversation about like what was going on in our area. I remember I had this wild story from like my daughter in middle school, and like her having like to deal with like this kid that was a bully who was like, I don't know, it's just very, very awkward situation. And like we would talk about random stuff like that, but we didn't like, there was no traction. Nobody was listening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did try to do some trivia based podcasts before, but like, again, like it was just one of those things. And that's the story for most podcasters. Most people that start a show, I think they say it's like less than 6 episodes.
Oh, wow.
Most of them, you know what I mean? They most of them don't go anywhere. And a lot of this could kind of be said because I was always looking for a co-host, you know, and I just didn't want to go and like ramble on my own. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then 2020 happened. And I was fishing a lot at that point. Like, really, once 2018 sort of started, I've talked about this on Jigs and Bigs. Like, there was a guy that I fish with a couple times a year, usually, even now. He used to work security at one of my accounts. And he was really into fishing, and we'd talk about like what fishing videos we were watching and different baits and all kinds of stuff. And he got me back into it big time. And I thank him for that, because that was at a point where I had started taking better care of myself. Like, remember I said I was fatter. I was at the fattest I've ever been. And I started going to working out. And then what I would do is afterwards I would fish, and like, cause I can take a call, you know, and I was bank fishing, you know, so I could like take a call and do what I had to do or something like that. Or I would stop and, you know, do a bunch of social posts, whatever I had to get done, like first thing in the morning, then I'd go out and I'd fish later or something like that. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, and I was really getting into it, and I was like, you know, I'd love to do something with fishing content. And about this point, I was like, I'd like to just do something, you know, like I wasn't finding any fishing podcasts I liked. Like, there was one that I really kind of, because they were all so far beyond me, and I felt like I was like, that just wasn't for me. I didn't get it. Or they were like, I was looking for some more beginner content. Like, one of the shows I used to listen to a lot was Bass Fishing for Noobs.
Oh, on the Paddle and Fin Network.
On Paddle and Fin, yeah. Well,
okay,
actually, even before it was on Paddle and Fin, that's when I got into that show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, man, this is great, you know, because it was entry level enough where I was like, it would do what it needed to do. Like, it got me really thinking, and got me really like my mind opening up to like different concepts and stuff, and paying attention to the details. That was the big thing, is the details.
Always.
I then went from there to like 2020 happened, and I all of a sudden had all this time, and I was asking people like if they wanted to do like some kind of a fishing project or something like that. My buddy Paul, I talk about him at length on the show. You know, the guy was holding my my trolling motor remote upside down, and the bunny was upside down. So he was I love that son of a bitch. So he and I, like, I was like, yeah, we should do some kind of content, like something, I'm like, this would be awesome. And
Yeah.
Same thing. Like he and I were in a band together. That's how we met, was playing music. And he's like, he was out of it. He's like, I'm so glad I'm not playing music anymore. I'd rather fish. And I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, let's make some content. And he's like, he's just very passive with the idea, I think. And it's just not him. And I understand that now. So 2020 happened and I was scrambling for like something. I was like, I got to figure something out. Like I was trying to figure out a way how to have people play trivia from their cars at my old accounts using like an FM transmitter and the Wi-Fi router and everything. And
you were going deep,
dude. I was I had no income. You know what I mean?
I was going to ask you, how scary was that going into that? Because like your job and livelihood, your family's food revolved around you being in public places.
I am lucky in the sense that my wife, her job was in high demand because she's a nurse. So it was just absolute, like ridiculous. Like she got even busier than she was before. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to hang out here, and I felt terrible, but I was always trying to grind and figure a way to do something, you know what I mean? Like I had to. And, I had a bunch of people that wanted to just do online trivia events. They really did. And I was like, it's so difficult. And you'll see, like with the project with Jigs and Bigs that's coming, the something fishy trivia. You'll see it's different than the experience you had at Oldfields when I was there in person.
Oh, okay.
It really is. It's a little bit more limited online, but they were like, just, something. So I hosted like one game a week and like people would make donations and stuff. And, it was cool. Like, I actually made some really amazing friends that way too, because some people just discovered me that way. They heard about my trivia nights before, and then they started playing with me online, and then made the transition to actually playing in person.
Dude, that's awesome. That's actually really interesting. I wish I had known about that back then, because I mean, there's plenty of times when me and the wife are just sitting around the house, like,
you're like, what do you want to do?
Yeah, you already
Especially
ran, I already fished. Like,
yeah. So that's what I would do, is like during the day I would go and I would fish, and I would fish all fucking day long. And I was so lucky because like, Holly knew what I was going through. Like, she knew like I was fucking stressed, and this would keep me from fucking losing my absolute marbles. And I decided I was just going to start chronicling on a podcast platform what I was doing, and trying to then network and get people on, and selfishly kind of learn some shit. It was really it. Right. And the show has gone on to like change a little bit. Like it was one thing, and then when I had Sean on, there was another sort of shift where we started incorporating some of Sean's experience, with the Sean the Fisherman segment, and it was like that for a little while. And then he came on as like a regular guest host, and it worked great. Like it was fantastic. And the show it's blown up into something that I never would have expected. And it all came from having months and months and months of free time and being able to just invest into it,
That's, man. Okay. So you basically, this massive media format that you are part, that you have created, like it's bigger than you think, because I've said your name many a times, and people are like, oh yeah, the Jigs and Bigs. Like, and I live in California. I don't know what your listenership is in California, but I live out here. People know who you are. And I'm not like name dropping, like, oh, I'm Bobby, but like, I'm like, oh yeah, this podcast is talking to my buddy Bobby Roastbeef, and like, oh, from Jigs and Bigs. I'm like, yeah, that guy. And they're like, oh, that's crazy.
That's so wild, man.
It's wild, dude. But it was all based out of like, I'm gonna dive a little deep right here, but it was all like a fear-based project. Like it went from like, you were literally just grasping at straws because you've literally lost everything that you have built because of, the whole 2020 thing.
Yep.
And you just fired off an idea and it just landed, dude. And it blew up. Like, have you ever just thought about, have you ever thought about that? Like this was all based off of like just a scared moment and like boredom, and
I have to do something to stay busy.
Yeah.
And that's that. Yeah, absolutely, man. And it was all so fucking fast. Like that first episode came out in April of 2020. And I think by the time we got to like May, or maybe the first week of June, there was already a relationship with Joe with his tackle shop, Old Glory Outdoors. There was already a relationship with Hooks Head Hoodlums. Like there was already a relationship with like just these folks that were like, and at the time, like people were grinding, dude. Like if they wanted to create content, that was the perfect opportunity, because what the hell else were they going to do?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that I don't know that people will necessarily have the time unless they're super young, and that's probably how it's going to continue to grow. But like just to see people get into it and make content, whatever it was just exploding.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And yeah, I got real lucky. Like it's funny too. Like it's so weird. I will meet people, and like even locally around here, there was a girl that plays trivia regularly in one of my spots, and she came in one day all excited, and I think I talked about this on the show, but she had a picture of her holding a largemouth, and she had gone fishing with her boyfriend Spencer, right? And I think they had just started dating relatively recently, and he's really into fishing, and she's like, all right, well, I'll go with you. And he's like, okay, so we're gonna throw Senkos. And she caught a fish, she was excited, wants to do this more often, and he's like, holy shit, this is great, who is this? And so she's talking about, oh yeah, I'm going to trivia, with so and so, and we're going here. And he's like, oh, all right, cool. And then she's like, you should come, you'd like it. And he's like, I'm really not into trivia, it's not my thing, or whatever. She's like, no, the host is really good, Bobby Roastbeef. And she was like, wait a minute. He's like, Bobby Roastbeef? He listened to Jigs and Bigs.
Dude.
Yeah, which I think that blows my mind, because I look at our analytics and I'm like, what? I'm like,
how does this lay out?
I'm like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, hang on one second. We're going to do a little pause because I have to do an ad, because that is what I said I would do, and I will always do it. All right, hang on one second. What up, dudes and dudettes? I'm sure you're tired of hearing my voice by now, but you're going to hear it for a little bit longer, because this is a shout out to the sponsor of this show, Kayak City. Kayak City has been taking care of me ever since I started getting into a boat and paddling around in the water trying to catch some fish. And when I tell you it is Kayak City, it is literally like a city of kayaks. They have Bonafide, Eddy Line, Feel Free, Hobie, Jackson, Native, New Canoe, Old Town, Wilderness Systems, and so many used kayaks. I stopped trying to count them a long time ago. If you guys are looking for accessories, they have walls and walls and walls of accessories. They have one wall dedicated specifically to Yak Attack, and it is a massive wall. Kayak City is your #1 Yak Attack dealer here in Northern California. If you want to know where it is, stop by at 7812 Auburn Boulevard, Citrus Heights, CA. Roll through, say what up to James, Troy, Eric, Scott. Tell them Dave says what's up, and tell them I sent you there. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, dude, there it that's goes. Awesome. I fucking lost my shit when that ad started.
That's actually the background now. I just turned the lights out because it's nighttime, so no one sees anything.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Although it does add this nice layer of depth. Nice. I'm in my dining room right now. I never do recording up here, like for the regular show.
Yeah.
Oh man,
dude. So okay. So you are, acknowledged and known by people around you now, like not only people in fishing, but for your trivia, like the two worlds are colliding for you at this point, right?
And
you have a co-host, Sean the Fisherman, and you guys have been. How long did you guys do the show together? Because I know that he just left, but
I was a good 3 years.
Okay, yeah,
it was a good 3 years, because he came on. I guess he was like the 5th guest, and then he had this segment just followed like right afterwards. So he only left in like March of 24. So yeah, realistically, I'll bet you 21 is when he first came on board. I'll bet you something like that right about then, or just before 21. So, I could go back and look at the episode numbers and everything and figure it out, but he's been there for the vast majority of it.
So now you got like this partner, you're doing this podcast, all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
Y'all were like, when I started listening, it was you and Sean,
Yep.
So, like, what's your wife thinking about all this at this point? Like, what's the family like? Are they like, dude, my dad's a podcast host, or they're like, dude, dad's in the basement a lot? Like, what, like,
So it's weird because, like, I genuinely think that they love that I love doing this. I really do. But both of my kids probably don't ever want to hear me say, oh, guess who I've got lined up for an interview this week? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things, like, they're really happy for me, but it's like, and I'm the only, like, that's the other thing too. It's like, I've always associated more with women, even as a kid, like on my mom's side of the family, I was the only boy. And we saw them more often, I think. And it was just like, I don't know. It was like, I would never even consider myself like a typical dude. You know what I mean? Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. So, like, in my house, I'm outnumbered. It's all women and me, and Hudson, the dog that's afraid of the boat. But like, that's it. So, like, I get a lot of that whole, like, yeah, dad likes to do stuff that we don't give a shit about, which is, and it works in a weird way,
Yeah.
There goes the cat.
Kitty. Hi, Kitty. I love cats. I'm a huge cat person. We got a dog.
Yep.
And
I'm a dog guy, 100%. I just got to move my bag because I think she was trying to get to her food.
Oh, nice. No worries. Yeah, dude, we got this dog, and we didn't get any dog. We got a husky dog. So we got basically a broken dog. It's not quite a dog. It's like a rebellious teenage angry human that destroyed my backyard in a day. Yeah. He's awesome though. I didn't like him, and now I don't want to like him. But
yeah, I know. Yeah,
we're cool. Me and him are pretty tight.
That's how it is with me and the cat. I don't love the cat.
Right.
Like, I'm a dog guy.
Yeah. But yet the cat will come and sit on you, and you're like, all right, whatever.
And I'm so allergic to her.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh, it's the worst.
Okay. You did say something. You were the only boy in your mom's side of the family. So growing up, are you an only child? Do you have brothers, sisters? How does that work?
I've got one sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Older, younger?
Younger by like 4 years.
Did she ever get into fishing, or was that just something that you were, going out with dad?
I think that she actually did. I talk with her all the time about going and fishing. I'm like, when are we going to get you out on the boat? And she's like, oh, I'm so busy. Like, she has a real career. Like, she works in an ER, and her schedule's nuts, but yeah, she was never really like, she wasn't one of those girls that was like, that's not for me. I'm not going to go fish. Like, even if it was just novelty to go do it once in a while, she likes it, Yeah.
How close are you guys in age? A couple years or?
There's 3.5 years between us.
Oh, so you guys are pretty much thick as thieves then. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. There's like that.
We
like
hated
5 years.
each other growing up.
Oh yeah. So you're,
each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, dude, that's awesome. Like, you hate each other, but if someone says something about your sister, like, you're gonna
100%.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. Only I can say that. Yeah.
Like, I can get away with that shit. You not so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. So high school growing up, did you ever have to deal with anything like that, or were you just like, nah, she's good,
Yeah, she was good. We went to different high schools.
Perfect.
I went to the trade school. She went to the high school in our town. And we lived like in a real rural area too. Like, when I was born, I was actually born where I live now, which is a pretty urban area.
Okay.
And when I was about like 10 or 11, we moved out to a much more rural spot. And it was pretty cool because that was when I really got to really enjoy the outdoors. You know what I mean? The first time I went bow hunting, was then and shit like that. And dude, I wish I could do that, but I just don't have the money or the time to invest to do it the right way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you still have a bow? You still have arrows and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I do. I do. I only have a few
or
arrows. I haven't shot in years. It's been a long time. Yeah, it's been a real long time. And it's one of those things where I'm like, maybe I could go and just throw a target in the backyard and, have at it. But then I'm like, I'd rather get in the kayak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
I'd rather get in the kayak or go out on the boat, And the boat is the biggest fucking deal, dude.
dude,
Like,
I want to get to that
yeah,
real quick here, but I just want to say, like, the progression of your life so far is like you had, worked, grinded. It's not like I'm just relaying this back, like from what we've talked about. You have grinded to
yeah.
provide, like you did everything that you possibly could have, and then it all fell apart. And then just out of a quick decision, it's like growing back. Like you blew up basically like overnight with just this idea, and now you're back on top. You're not even like, are you still grinding 3 jobs, or is it just the jigs and bigs and the trivia now?
It's just jigs and bigs in my event business. That's it. Yeah. So
So
like I have my weekly accounts and stuff, but like that is what I'm back to doing. And it's one of the, like I mentioned how it was funny that we mentioned trivia and everything, because we recorded today. This is my last night at that bar. I had to take a day to give myself some kind of time to work on this next evolution for Jigs and Bigs, which is the game show element, the fishing game show.
Oh yes, dude.
Like it just had to happen.
So the game show. Let's jump on this real quick.
Okay.
So you have a game show coming out, like a full Jigs and Bigs game show.
Full Jigs and Bigs game show. It's
is it stuff you're allowed to talk about right now, or
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
No, it's pretty fucking cool, man. So the idea is like, it was born out of this idea that I'm realizing that my schedule is insane. Like I am grinding constantly, but that's because the work is here. You know what I'm saying? So I want to take advantage of it. And I have accounts that are great. I have accounts that I've been at for years and have been fantastic. And I've had to make some changes over the last couple of years with like just stuff changing in general in the restaurant industry and shit locally. So I find myself now where I'm realizing like there's a lot of people that it's nice to be in demand. When people are like, this guy does something and he does it well and people enjoy it and he has a good rapport, bringing back, people, he's consistent, that feels really good, but man, it's exhausting. So I'm like, I want to do this stuff. Like, I'll use an example. I'm trying to plan. I'm in the process of planning a trip to St. Clair with one of our jig heads, Todd Sefton. And Todd's a good dude. We're going to have a good time. It's the weekend of April 20th. Giddy up.
Yeah,
it's also Easter, which is going to be nuts. So we're going to be smoking hams. Badum-ching. So what we were talking the other day, and I'm mapping out like what it looks like on the calendar for travel, and I'm like, that's a lot. Like, I'm not going to be able to drive that in one day. I'm going to need to like stop for a couple hours and have my rig set up and take a nap and then, plow through the rest of the way or something like that. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe I got to plan a live event out there too, because it's going to be that long. I got to compensate some of the loss for doing this kind of stuff. Like, there's no PTO for it when you're in my business. You don't get that. So I was like, all right, maybe we'll do that. And at the same time, I was working out some situation for an event in January in Southern Rhode Island. We talked about that on the show too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it worth adding all these additional hoops to like try to compensate what I'm losing, or should I figure something else out? And it dawned on me, I could do this online, this trivia. I could do it online. You know what I mean? I've done some online stuff, for other folks. And like I said, it's a different animal. Like, you've played that way before, Dave, so you would know.
Yes.
Right away. Like, there's like the buzz-in style element isn't there. Although what's interesting, we didn't do any of that stuff. And that's what got me thinking about it. In Columbus, it was all keypad based. Yeah. And it was a good sort of way to do it. And I'm like, so this game idea came to me. I was like, well, I can either have hundreds of people play, because I could handle it, hundreds and hundreds of people playing, or I could set it up to make it something that people could watch. And I think you might have seen, I put on Instagram a poll, like, would you be interested in playing? Would you be interested in watching? Would you want to do both, or would you want to do neither? And everything but neither got selected. So I was like, okay. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this out in a controlled sort of way. So I'm going to get a panel of contestants that will play, and maybe we'll do teams, or maybe we'll mix it up. We'll have some fun. And I have one scheduled for the weekend following Thanksgiving. The the jig heads will be able to watch it live. That's what my plan is.
Yes, dude.
I'm going to have I have one guest who's a close friend of the show, and they're calling out another one of their friends in a similar line of work to go mono a mono, head to head in fishy trivia. So I'm going to write a custom game combining stuff from where each of them are based regarding records and things like that. We're just going to have a good time. A couple of bonus opportunities, and somebody could potentially steal it at the end by just getting very lucky, you know? But then what will happen is that this show will then be on YouTube, on the Jigs and Bigs YouTube channel. So people can just watch it to check it out, play along at home, leave comments of how they did, things like that. And
awesome.
The alternative, and this allows me, like, if people are really into it, then I could take a few months and promote, like, hey, on this date, we're doing a big one. Hundreds of people can enter. You know, I think it's like 500 is about where I can cap it. So people can enter, and we just do this whole game show and, you know, do something fun, get some prizes involved and stuff. The trick is I'm trying to sponsor this because I want to make it, I don't want to have to deal with tickets or anything like that, or, any of that stuff. I just want it to be free to play for fun. You know what I mean? But I'm trying to get sponsors to support. And I came up with a plan to do that. And that's what I'm working on right now, is reaching out to different companies to see if they want to be involved and sponsor like a round, or if they want to be the presenting sponsor or a supporting sponsor or whatever. You know, I can even run advertisements, in between.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's something that I do that I really like. I know that I'm not a cocky guy. Like, genuinely, I joke around like I'm a fucking piece of shit, but I'm really not a cocky kind of guy.
No.
And I I do get pretty cocky about this because I know that this is my skill set. Like,
you're taking your two most productive things you've ever done in your life with passion projects, and you're combining them like that. Yeah, you have every right to be cocky about that. And I don't necessarily would call that cocky. I would call that confident. Like,
that's exactly it. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. So the boat, you have a boat. You had a kayak. Well, you still have a kayak, but now
still
you
have a kayak. Yeah.
Yes.
So the boat came to be. It was actually right before Columbus last year. I was at our local expo, and there was a booth from Hanks Marine that was there. And I had toyed around looking at like sportsman shows and things like the expos I had been at, where I would get like, the different literature on these boats and like the breakdown of like, well, hey, so these are the options here, or this is what's available here. Should I go fiberglass? Should I go aluminum? I knew I wanted to go aluminum, and I wasn't 100% sure, like layout wise, because I'm not a tournament guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just a guy that likes to fish, and for me it's about the adventure, and I wanted something versatile. And I was looking around, and I saw this Lund, right? There was actually two. There was one that was like a 22 foot, and one that was like a 16 or an 18 or something like that. And I was looking at these boats, and they're just amazing. I'm like, you know what? That's the layout. Having a front casting deck and a rear casting deck, but having plenty of floor space to be able to do shit with.
Yeah.
Like, that's the layout. I think that's the layout. And I was like, maybe I can make that happen. And the way I calculated in my head was like, it involves my dad, right? So my dad has, like, he's 70. He's got awful joints. You know what I mean? I put the stairs on the boat primarily for him. You know what I mean? To make things easier. So we go, and I'm like, all right, so I have he's retired now. I have the availability and flexibility in my schedule. I could fish with my father realistically twice a week.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Twice a week, realistically. Yeah. Right. If we were to do that, let's just say we made it once a week, right? There's a spot near us. And if we're going to go, we're going to rent a boat. the only spot around us that does that is this big reservoir. Here's a big drinking water reservoir where, not far from where I lived when I lived in this town, called Quabbin. It's huge, and there is just super diverse species. Like, it's crazy. You can rent a boat there for like, I think the last time I did it was like $60, and if you need a refill on fuel, yeah, it's nothing crazy. It's a small, like 16-foot aluminum boat with like a 25 horse Honda on the back of it. And to be able to actually travel anywhere on this body of water, there's no way. Like, it's too large.
I'm just saying, if that was California, it would be like $500.
Oh yeah, 100%. But this is a state-run organization that's like, they do this, like, this is DCR. So like, mass wildlife is involved and all that shit. So it's like, it's nothing special, but like, it's a deal, but I was like, let's take that $60. Let's say I go once a week with my father. Right. And in a month, in 4 weeks right there, that's a boat payment that I could live with.
That's true. Yeah.
Hey, you know what I mean?
That's justifiable math. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. And then from there, I was like, well, let's look at the used market. Let's see about doing this. And I'm like, how am I going to finance this? I was like, I can pay cash, and like put aside whatever I need and then say, this is what I'm going to go and buy. And I realized something about the used market. It's fucking hell. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. So I opted instead, interest rates the way that they are, I opted to go for a stripped down boat that was what I thought was the right versatile size to be able to take and fish a bunch of different bodies of water with it, and I love this thing, dude. It did what I want. The thing that, like, Sean introduced me to kayak fishing, and kayak fishing is amazing for the way it submerses you in the environment as part of it. It's amazing. Even with a freaking, what do you call it? Even with like an aircraft carrier, like I've got my Titan.
Yeah.
Dude, like, even that, like, it's you're immersed in nature.
You are. Yeah.
With a boat, it's a little bit of a different animal because you can bring other people. And there's two things, like fishing with people I care about. You know what I mean? Like spending time getting on the water and sharing that adventure with them. That's important. So that's why, like, almost every week this summer, my dad and I went out fishing. Almost every week, dude. And it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yep.
The stories, like everything, it's so good. That's the most important thing. The other side of it is being in a position where now I can bring my friends and try and give them that experience catching a tank. And for some of them, the first fish they've ever caught in their life. You know what I mean? And bringing them out there and doing this, like my buddy Jimmy, I think he's actually starting to enjoy this. You know what I mean?
When are we going on your boat next, bro?
He's like, dude, he's like, if you want, I think I'm off a couple of days next week. If you want to go out, we'll go hit up the river again. That was cool. And like,
he's getting hooked, dude.
I think he is slowly. It might take a little bit of time, but it's like, it's awesome, man. I've had friends from like middle school that I haven't seen in years, and I've just known them like through town or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, I'll fish with them.
Awesome.
It's so great, man. I definitely appreciate kayak fishing. It's a whole other beast, But
kayak fishing is a journey for you. And it sounds like you are actually having more fun giving somebody else that journey than taking the journey yourself. Like,
it really is. Like, it just adds to it for me, and like I had this realization. I think that, like, if there was an end goal for Bobby Roastbeef and fishing, it's like I would love to be a guide.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I would love it. I don't have any one specific body of water that's, I've got the experience in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There might be some other shit that I'll throw out there.
Well, dude. Okay. So if you build a triangle of everything that you've been doing all the way, sorry, I'm far away from the mic, all the way from the beginning.
Yep.
The pinnacle of that triangle, like you've gotten your trivia, which is, others, and, your accolades, and you get to be involved with people, and you're building all these relationships, and like relationships are a very big thing, and you're growing, and now it's bass fishing, and then you start the podcast, you're getting relationships through that, you're blending the bass fishing with the trivia. I mean, all the way down the line, all it is bringing more well, at least as a listener, and before we got to meet each other, like as a listener, like I was brought into your show, like I was brought in by your show. Like it felt like I was just sitting there listening to my buddies talk about fishing all day, and it was great. And like the way you guys would explain your lives and stuff like that, it was almost like a dose of vulnerability per show. Like I got to know a little bit more about you, a little bit more about Sean. Like it was really cool. And so you have been bringing people in this entire time to like your window of life, and people get to see it the way you do it and the way, what you like to do. And people also like that stuff. So I'm saying that pinnacle, that triangle is almost at its peak, where it would be you fishing with you taking other people fishing on a regular basis would be like, that's the peak of that triangle.
Oh yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know I'm a terrible way of explaining things because my brain is like a million miles a minute, everyone. So listening to this on a podcast, I'm sorry. But if you watch the YouTube, I actually moved my hands in a triangular formation. So
that's what I feel like the description was perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So you have the boat, you got the show, you're going to be moving on to the trivia or the what is it, Jigs and Bigs trivia, or is it going to be like Jigs and Bigs Jeopardy, or is it, family fuck that guy, or
I'm calling it Jigs and Bigs something fishy trivia.
Yes.
Okay, and I have a feeling that like it'll probably go. I have a feeling people will enjoy it, and they're just going to be like, let's just do this as general knowledge. Who gives a shit? Mm-hmm. And I think that will expand. That's kind of like what I ultimately would like to see. Like even with the show, people are entertained by the show. They think it's funny, and then maybe they learn something about fishing. Maybe. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we're not an education forward show. Go listen to Tackle Talk if you want to fucking learn something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's the bros. Like you give that vibe. You give that essence. Like when I heard your show, I immediately went to my bros. I didn't go to like everybody I knew that was fishing and like, hey, you want to listen to this? I went to my buddies who like, if you wanted like talk fishing like we talk fishing, listen to this show when we're not together.
That's what it's all about, man.
Dude, it was awesome. Yeah,
it's so funny. I feel like we like Jigs and Bigs, the space that we take up in the world, we're the garage beers of, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like we're just like when you're like, yeah, hey, let's throw on some Creed and crack open some cold ones in the garage.
Yes,
our wives can catch up about whatever later.
Yeah. So, speaking of wives, so you brought home a boat. I wanted to know how that went over. Was that like a like, hey, babe, I'm going to go do this? Or you're like, look at what I got.
So my wife loved the idea of getting a boat. She loved it so much. She wanted a patio on the water. She wanted a pontoon boat is what she wanted.
Yes.
And I told her, I was like, she's like, you could fish from a pontoon boat. I was like, you're right, I can. But I go, are we going to leave this at a marina? You want to pay for that? I'm like, because that's not cheap. And then she's like, well, she goes, I mean, could you trailer it and then bring it? I was like, I mean, in theory, yes, but I won't be able to bring it everywhere. And it's going to be a pain in the ass. Yeah. I'm like, it's just going to be a problem. It's not even that it's heavy. It's just that it's awkward, So I'm like, and it's really not set up for fishing. It's set up for lounging and hanging out, and don't get me wrong. Like if tomorrow, Bennington was like, hey, we want to give Jigs and Bigs a pontoon boat, but you guys use it as a studio, 100% all day. We'll do it all day.
Bennington, are you listening? That's genius. I'm
already doing it with my Lund.
I know.
You know what I mean? I'm already doing it. And so there's things that are going to kind of happen. So I had told her, I was like, look, it just doesn't make sense because it's going to be primarily used for fishing. So at first she was just like, she knew a boat was coming. And I told her, I was like, hey, I'm going to look at this boat. I go, it might happen. And I told her initially, because I was looking used. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to drop X amount. It'll be paid off this time, whatever. And I'm like, then you and I can go out and fish. And that's genuinely what I wanted. I wanted to give her like that experience.
Yeah.
So I had a conversation with her afterwards and I was like, hey, look, the used market's scary. Like it's a dumpster fire. I was like, it's bad. I go, I think it might be a better decision to just finance something new that has some warranty, that has something that I know, like I can back it, you know?
Yeah.
And she did not argue with me. So I said, all right. So I was looking around. And oddly enough, I crossed paths again with Matt from Hanks, the same marina displaying those two Lunds at that Sportsman show about a year prior. Actually, no, I guess it was only like about 6 months. And we had a conversation and I told him what I was looking for. And he was like, well, he goes, I'll tell you what. He goes, kind of what you want is the 1650 Angler. He goes, it's got a wider beam. He goes, you're talking about making content on it and doing all this stuff. He goes, it's going to be way more stable than like the Fury that I was initially looking for. And he goes, you're just going to have more space to be able to do shit. And I was like, I get you. Totally get you. It's like I recorded an interview with Hank Bassgeek on the boat, on the water. And then I recorded the one with Nate from Big Jigs.
Yeah.
You know, that was so fucking cool. And it's just like, it's to me, I'm like, that's just like that next evolution, you know?
Yeah.
I absolutely freaking love it. And
So
you know,
Go
it's
ahead.
fun. It's funny. I didn't think there was going to be much difference between my boat experience and like Joe's. And this is even before he had the Icon. Like I'm talking the Skeeter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I was like, oh yeah, you know, it's kind of being the same. No, it's a whole other ball game. It's totally different, you know? My boat is like, it has one job, and that's for fishing, you know?
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, I only got my wife to come out twice, and that was it. I got to prove my point. I use the boat like 12 times in a month. She's twice in a year. So I'm like, this is why we have a fishing boat. And she goes, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
You know, but she loves it. She's like, I could 100% come and do this.
Yeah. Didn't you say, I heard you say something about your wife took a nap one day on it? And I'm like,
Twice.
I figured that, okay. I figured that's the win-win right there. Like she gets to go out and
100%.
relax and you get to go fishing and oh dude, that's awesome.
That's the best. And she has a good time. And eventually I hope I'll get a rod into her hand and she'll catch something that'll be like, cause I think that if she has that experience, she might just fall in completely and just be like, oh, all right, okay, I think I get this. But then again, I also know her and I think she's absolutely right. She just has nothing in her life that she's that passionate about. Yeah. So I think she might be like, yeah, that's cool. And then just, you know, and then there's people like me that are just wired weird.
Dude, no, not wired weird, dude. We're just wired different.
We are.
If you say weird, then like, you know, well, I mean, I'm weird. I fully agree.
I'm fucking weird.
Yeah. I like to get weird. But no, like, how do I say this? I was talking to Brad and Matt a long time ago, and I was talking about how do you say it? Like-minded people.
Yep.
You know, so we're not necessarily wired weird, but like the way we look at things is like you and me, super similar. We could sit down and we could talk for days. But if my wife or your wife sat down in one of our conversations, I think they'd make it about 10 minutes and be like, yeah, nope. And out,
I'm out. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like a hyper focus when I'm passionate about something. Like I am all over the place when I have zero like passion towards it. I am a squirrel chasing nuts all over the house, you know. But the moment I have something that I feel about it, I'm hyper focused.
I just had this same conversation with my youngest daughter driving her to school today. I was like, that's one thing that you are not like your mom. I was like, you're a lot like me with that. She goes, oh yeah, well, hyperfixate on something and just like that's what it is. I'm like, oh yeah. Like, 1,000. Oh my God, that kid.
my 9-year-old is my son, young. I call him young Eli because, you know, I know a bunch of Eli's, but you know, my son, Eli, he's the same way. And he's, you know, having troubles. He's just like, Dad, why do I got to go to school? And like, why do I have to learn this stuff? And I feel horrible. Like I feel like a bad parent if I don't like, you know, you got to do it to, you know, succeed in life, blah, 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 blah. In my mind, I'm like, dude, I got no clue because I was terrible at school. I was horrible. I felt the same way. Why am I here doing this? Like, because I had no passion in it. I had no drive for it. But everything else, like working with my hands and getting out there and getting dirty, like hyper focused, like crazy. So when I got into skateboarding or fishing, like it is literally the passion that drives my motors. You know, I get up in the morning for that. It's funny because I won't 5 a.m. Well, now that I don't like work crazy hours, I don't get up at 5 a.m. for nothing. But if you tell me we're going fishing tomorrow, dude, I'm up at 3:30 in the morning, re-rigging everything that I rigged the night before. You know, like
oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's I love that part of fishing too. Like that ritualistic like practice of like, okay, so we're gonna change this, or for me, you know what I love? I love changing my line off my spools in the spring. Man, that feels so good.
I do it twice a year. I just did it the other day for my winter. I'm getting everything set up for winter. So I'm like light lining and like changing everything out and like putting away the frog rod kind of. That's always I always keep it on deck, but
every fishing rod I have is in my truck at every instance of the year.
I can attest to that. I seen them. Yep. Like you were loading massive boxes of sound equipment in Columbus, Ohio, and just above everything is just a rack of rods, dude, like ready to go. I was
everything I have. That's why, like, I'm like, I couldn't go technique specific. Got to run out of space.
Yeah.
Yep. I use a Spectrum. You know what I mean?
My frog rod is also my A-rig rod, but
oh yeah, no, nothing wrong with that.
But no.
Speaking of A-rigs. Did you get your November box yet?
I live in California. I get it right before Canada. I get my November box at the end of November. I get my boxes at the end of the month almost every month.
Buckle up.
Yeah. I get the inside scoop ahead of time.
Yeah. So you know about the bass dope. Yeah.
Oh, dude. Have you looked at the business card?
It's hilarious. Zach texted me and I was like, what? I just thought it was like scuffed. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, dude. The whole box is like that. I'm like, that's hilarious.
That's so good.
I put on Blizzard of Oz immediately.
Yeah. Genius. Genius. So tell me this, like, do you ever rig or play with your kayak, like set stuff up, or because I know like rigging rods and rigging your gear the night before the day of is like always just it's another animal in itself. But do you ever find yourself like working on your kayak or trying to figure out something for the Lund, like putting like when you put your rod tubes up and stuff? Like, was it just like almost the same as just like getting ready to go fishing? Like I don't know, at least for me,
it definitely was.
I get that same jazz.
And it's funny because like I've rigged my boat with the weirdest rod holders. Like I've got Yak Attack rod holders on my boat.
That's awesome though.
Yeah, it's I didn't realize that they made some of the adapters that they do for the track systems that go around the hull of the boat. And I'm like, this is kind of awesome. So I've been utilizing that, and a lot of that was actually for the trip to Cayuga during the slot limit tournament. Oh my God, that slot limit tournament, my God. Dude, my beard wasn't this white beforehand. Jesus, man, that put me through the ringer.
Dude, talk about that a little bit, real quick. Just before we get back into the rigging, like talk to me about that. Like, I heard the show, but like, what was the experience? You know,
I think everything went really, really smooth considering. Like, we just got a pop of anglers in the last like maybe 36 hours leading up to the end of registration, and I left it open like till like I think 7 a.m. the day of, and like we ended up, I think I left for Cayuga and I think we had like 15 anglers, and I think when I got there, or we left that morning, it was at 29.
Yeah,
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But yeah, that one guy, Ken.
Oh yeah,
wow. Oh dude, he was the worst. He was the worst.
Yeah. If you guys don't know what Bobby's talking about, go back Jigs and Bigs 3 weeks.
Yep.
3 weeks? Yeah, 3 weeks. And go ahead and listen to the recap on the Jigs and Bigs slot limit tournament. And I will guarantee you not only entertainment, but a slight bit of if you're looking for something to be mad at, it is the perfect episode. There is a guy on there. His name is Ken something or other.
Yeah. He's the worst.
I was floored by the way this guy was like talking and treating you, but I'm saying for the experience for you being out there, like you guys, you said it was a struggle trying to catch and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, for us, dude, man,
what was that
brutal.
like? Yeah,
it was brutal. So we went to there was, and I've, again, like, I'm brilliant, of course, I'm gonna plan to go to a big fish fishery I've never fished before, and enter a slot limit tournament. You know what I mean? Like, they just this broke a state record in New York out of that pond, out of that lake, this past summer. So I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. So I, again, not fishing at all. I did my homework beforehand, and I was looking for some stuff on some topo maps, and I found something that seemed really, really good. And I was like, all right, we'll see if we can find fish on here, because I knew my plan was just to be adaptable. And we went out and we left Friday once everybody arrived there. Myself and Nick Deshane and Janelle Orsino, we went on the boat, and we went down to this one spot. And Janelle had fished a little bit. Like, we had to go through a couple of locks, and she would fish around there and stuff. And they were biting that first day. It was pretty good. Janelle caught a couple. We got to the one spot where I wanted to go. Everybody got on fish there. Everybody. And they were all like, they would have fit in the slot. It would have been perfect. I'm like, this is awesome. I think I caught them on like a white fluke or something like that. Like, I was like, this is perfect. That's what I want to be doing. Like, let's just go. We found them. Well, I knew that the weather the next day was going to be something else. Like, there was a little bit of a cold front that had come through, and the wind was going to be insane. So I was like, if anything, I might be able to get away with throwing like a bladed jig or a spinnerbait or something like that. Just cover water like that. Yeah. But I know that those fish were here. We just got to get them to bite. And they were so turned off, dude. They would just not bite anything. Now, again, we're doing this. I don't have any electronics. So like, it's very possible that they pushed off, but we fished that area well. And we either they up and like change lakes. I don't know. Is that a thing? or something. I was like, you got to be shitting me. So it was just Janelle and I that were competing that day. And I said to her, I was like, look, let's go. And there was one spot that one of the lock operators had said, hey, they stack up over here. You guys should make sure to hit that at some point. And they didn't. So we go back up through the locks. I was like, let's go and try this one spot of the river. This also looked pretty juicy. We got there. It was just an absolute shit show. We did find a little bit of shelter from the wind, which let us kind of flip into some trees and stuff. Could not get a bite there. We ended up finally back, because at this point, we're in the Erie Canal. And we're traveling up back toward like where the campground is at this point. And like, we come across Nick in his kayak. We're just standing there talking, and, again, spirits is very, very high. Like, I was like, what? I can't believe these fish. I can't believe I can't buy a bite. Like, I was junk fishing, but like calculated junk fishing. Yes. You know what I mean? Yep. Where I was like, we're going to change this variable. Yep. And we're going to do this. And I finally got a couple. I got my first one while we were headed back up to the camp. And I caught, what was it, like a 7-inch largemouth? Wouldn't hit the minimum at all. I was throwing around a little BFS spinner and from Mule Fishing, actually, a Bronco blade. Yeah. And ate that. I was like, okay, cool. Sounds good. Now, Janelle was like, dude, I'm cooked. Like, I need a shower. I need to, I'm done. So I drop her off at the dock. I go back out for like the last hour. I caught another largemouth. I think this was like 8.5. Wouldn't hit the minimum. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Now, Janelle and Nick both took a skunk that day. Binya Outdoors did put 12, I think it was like a 12.5 or a 12.75 on the board. So he got to enter at least one. There were a lot of anglers that only entered one fish.
Yeah, I saw that.
And like the winners were like hundreds. Well, like 100 or like 70 something, I think, or something like that. Or it was crazy. It was a big discrepancy. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And even after the tournament was over, I had tied the boat to the dock. That was one nice thing about where we were camping, was that they had boat slips available.
Oh,
So for
that's
the whole
awesome.
weekend, it was awesome. I could just tie the boat off, just go right out to it. Didn't have to worry about dealing with the launch or anything. It was really nice. It was just go out, fish, do our thing. We had just finished eating dinner and the sun was starting to go down and there's all these fish busting because the cabin was right alongside the Erie Canal. Dude, it was amazing. So we're like, let's go grab some rods and do some bank fishing. Who hooks up? Your boy Bobby Roastbeef.
Yeah, buddy.
Ultralight finesse, making it happen. Biggest fish of the day. Still didn't break 12 inches. So bad, dude. It was so bad. And then we went out the next morning in the rain, and we had a good time there. I caught one while we were out, but we were just having a good time. That was podcast record day.
Yeah,
that was when I made the venison chili. That was
yeah.
That was dope. That's another one of my big passions, man. Is cooking.
I was going to ask you because you did the line chef stuff for a while, and
I did,
then
yeah.
we didn't really hit on that too long. But then it sparked my brain. I'm like, no wonder, because you always talk about cooking up something crazy for the family or for yourself, and I'm like,
Yep.
I'm like the microwave master, bro. Like I know that 49 seconds is basically a minute in a 10,000 watt microwave or whatever.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Like I can get I get tricky with that. But as for cooking like delicious meals, like dude, you are on top of it.
I get that from my dad. He loves to cook. I love to cook. Like it's like I was out fishing with Eric, and we happened to lay into a bunch of trout, limited out. We split the whole take, and it was awesome. We're like, I come home and I have this way I like doing trout. And my kids, they are experimental eaters. Like they'll try anything once. You know what I mean? I love that. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like my dad would make all kinds of different stuff. And I was just like, yep, kind of makes sense. And I don't know, there's just something about it. Like I don't follow recipes. Like I just get like a rough idea and I'm like,
Hey, dude, the best people the best meals I've ever had cooked have never followed a recipe,
And that's part of the reason why I love camping. And I think you and I have to camp, Dave.
We do.
I love to camp.
Same. Yeah.
I'm a little bit extra, I grind my beans while I'm camping. That sounds terrible, by the way, but I grind my coffee beans when I'm out camping. Like,
I mean, I picked up what you're doing, but not. I got the jet boil and the stainless steel press pot, and like, I'm not much better, but I mean, I do smash in a tent. Like, I'll smash myself in a little tent, a sleeping bag. Like, I'm pretty much basic, good to go.
Yeah, man, I love it.
Same, dude. Let's camp when we're out here, dude. There's so much good camping out here too.
Oh hell yeah, dude!
I don't know what
Mendocino County. Let's go fucking find Bigfoot. I'm down,
dude. I mean, we could. I don't know how comfortable you are like with camping with bears and stuff like that, but that's what we got out here. That's our big deal. Is I mean, they don't do nothing to you. They're little scavengers, but they will rip your car door off if you leave a candy bar in the car.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah, that shit can't happen.
Yeah, that's about as bad as it'll get. You tell them to leave, they'll leave when they feel like it. Yeah. So, but dude, there's so much good camping and so much good fishing. Like,
fuck yeah, dude.
Berryessa out here is really close to me, and that is if you ever get bored, look up some stuff. Like I got a couple spots too, because I know you were talking about coming out here doing like the Clear Lake and the Delta, and we can totally do those, but I want to take you to like Berryessa. I want to take you to Trinity. There's some really cool spots. So
and that's the other thing too that makes it so good about having the boat too, is like those trips are now a reality.
They are.
Because it's like, instead of like, I did that trip with Paul, the Jabberhammer from Bass and Brews, and it was great, but like, it was when I would set up a trip before I had the boat, it was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll take my kayak, we'll kayak together and then do our thing. And while it's cool, you can go and fish whatever it is that you want to fish. You're not really like in it together,
Yeah.
When I bring the boat, it makes the traveling a little bit easier because now I can store some stuff in the boat. That makes my life a little bit simpler. But when we get there, we splash that sucker, we fish till we're done, we pull that out of the water, we're good to go.
Hell yeah. And you're on tour. You get to do your tour.
That's exactly it. And then I don't have to worry about doing an event. I can go to like a Starbucks and get some internet and then do my game show or record it before or after the traveling. You know what I mean? That's the beauty about it. The flexibility is insane.
Yeah, dude, that's so awesome.
It's insane.
Okay. I had a question in my brain and I totally forgot it. I'm sorry. The wife came in and gave me some news and I was like, what? Huh? All right. I was gonna say, when it comes to the future, like you've been doing all this stuff, you want the guide, you want to be able to go on tour, you want to do all this stuff. Are you going to bring the family, or is it going to be like, hey guys, I'll be gone for a little bit and then, enjoy yourselves, I'll be back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like how, like, because you said like your family's happy, like that you are happy and that you love to do this stuff. Like, are they interested in ever coming out with you, or, like,
I think
it's not just fishing locally. It's like, you're going to take a trip.
I don't think my girls would elect to go and do something that hardcore, going out for a few days and like, I mean, a good example would be Cayuga. Like it rained that entire second day and it just didn't stop. And we were like, okay, we're going fishing. Like, it's not like it's going to ruin it. You know what I mean? It's just, we're going, I'm going to have the bilge pump on. It'll be fine. You know,
rain jackets.
Exactly. Yeah. We're going to prep for it as best we can, and then send it once we're uncomfortable, we'll say, screw it. We'll come back in, we'll warm up and we'll enjoy the rest of the time. I don't think they're ever necessarily going to do that. My wife does have this like idea in her mind that we're going to camp and travel around. Like she wants to get an RV and go various places. And I don't like, I think she likes to have plans is what it is. And maybe they don't necessarily even have to come to fruition, but she's like, yeah, we're going to go and do this. And I'm like, okay. Like, I would love to take her along with me. And if she wants to genuinely come along with me for one of these trips, I'll bring her 100%. I think I've offered most times. I'm like, hey, you want to come? And she's like, no. But when she retires and she's done working, like I'm going to work until I can't work anymore. That's my plan. Is I'm going to be doing some type of hosting until I can't anymore. When she can retire, it's going to be a different kind of beast. And I think that then she might be a little bit more open to some of this stuff. Because then the pull of like, oh, I'm going to pick up a shift at this facility, or I'm going to go and do this. Because like my wife is a total workaholic. The worst,
Hey, we all got our things. She hyper focuses on work. There you go.
And she'll say straight up, she's like, I only work this hard because I am so financially irresponsible. Like,
I'm not knocking.
Yeah, no, it's nuts.
So now that you have the boat and you've been able to go out with your dad like all summer, like how's that relationship? Has that grown your relationship more with him? Yeah. Like, I mean, of course, a father and son like always have a great relationship, but like, has it grown or manifested, or not manifested, but has it matured in a different way? Or
oh yeah, 100%. And I think there's something too, like matured is the exact perfect word, because when I was 17, 20 something years old, I was like, man, the older I get, the more I realize I'm just like my dad, and I hated it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I fucking hated it. But now I'm like, there's a whole lot worse people I could be like. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I think that's pretty fucking cool. Like, I think my dad and I are probably closer now just because we see each other so much more often, Yeah. And like, nobody's, like I said earlier, nobody's promised tomorrow. So I'm like, it's better for me to do this while he's 70 and his joints are bad versus like, I'm not able to get him in a boat at all. You know what I'm saying? So. So I think he'll be fine though.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm stoked you get to have that relationship like grow now. Like that's super
for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to kind of wind down because, it's getting late and I know you got to go to bed, dude.
Oh, dude. Yeah. That edible is kicked completely in.
That's so awesome. You're just cruising now. I got, there's only a few questions here, but I kind of wrote one down just specifically for you.
Yep. I love that.
dude, man, I love you, dude. But how has being in the fishing media changed your experience with relationships with people?
Like
grown relationships, built better relationships, found more quality people, less quality people. Like how has that changed for you? Because I mean, you used to just fish sometimes for fun, and now you're in fishing media. Like when people talk to you, it's weird sometimes. Like I've had people come up to me, I'm not famous, has nothing to do with the podcast, but people are like, oh, blah blah blah, and I heard you fish this. Just they're not being their genuine self.
Yeah, I hear that. I would say for me, I would select like a D, all the above, because, and I feel like it's the same ratio as it was. Like I do genuinely feel like the vast majority of people on the planet are good people. You know what I mean? So I feel like by proxy, like my experience would be the same sort of ratio. Like most of my interactions with people have been really positive, really good relationships. Like you and I are a great example. Nick, basically everybody from the Dark Horse, that entire Columbus crew is a great example of how a really good, strong, fantastic relationship is created through being in the fishing media, you know?
Yeah.
The other side of that is I'm a little bit more aware of some of the stuff that's going on. And there's also been shitty stuff with some kind of not quite savory folks that have happened that I think had I not been in the fishing media, I probably wouldn't have even been aware of previously. And now I'm like, oh man, that's shitty, man. So-and-so did this, or, or this organization is run this way. That's too bad. Or, like you hear it like a lot of times. A good example is like the cheating tournament anglers with the walleye and the, what I mean? That would have.
We're all in that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And like, and you kind of, you see a lot more of a broad scope. So that's why I think it would be like all of the above. Like there's definitely much better, stronger, better relationships, new people for sure. I love when I talk with somebody who's just like, hey, I learned this on your show, or even better, they just reference something like what we would consider like an inside joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like FTG is a perfect example of that. When somebody's just like, hey, yeah, FTG, right? And they point at like just some dude filling up his jet skis with gas. But when they get that, and I'm just like, I mean, you're not wrong. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I freaking love it. And like, I'll tell you one thing that's really interesting about fishing media. Armando did nothing good when he made the comparison. He was like, you're like the Howard Stern of fishing. I was like, Armando, don't say that, man, because that's going to go right to my head, man. 100%. That's like one of my heroes, dude.
Yeah, dude.
He's a weirdo now, but like, he was...
Bro, Howard Stern is literally like the godfather of what we're all doing now.
100%. 100%. Him, Tom Green. So many people don't even remember Tom Green.
I remember Tom Green.
Dude, how many friends do you know, or how many friends do you have that were like, dude, we were doing shit like Tom Green before. We just didn't have a camera.
Me.
Yeah.
Me. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For sure. Yep.
Oh, the worst.
I was that friend.
I'm kind of happy that there were not as many cameras back then.
Bro, tell me about it.
We lived in a time where that was good.
Yeah. Hey, hang on 1 second. I'm having an audio issue, so I'm just.
I can hear it.
Yeah. Like the audio went out for a second, and it just came through my computer speakers, and I was like, "What the hell's going on?"
If you
you want to give me the
if you go to your settings, right?
Yep.
And then you go to your audio.
Yeah.
You can change that source, like the mic. And you're a Mac guy, right?
Yeah, I have it.
There you go.
they're both set on the same, but you still come through my computer speakers, even though it's set on the.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It just came back. I'm hearing your mic now on.
Oh, yeah. I was pointing the mic towards the computer speakers because I couldn't. There was no audio, so I was like, "Oh crap!" So I was like trying to put it towards you real quick, so get the answer. But yeah, I'll work on this thing, and I actually will have to edit a little bit. That's what's going to end up happening. I have to figure out this audio edit.
It's just part of it, man. It's like free jazz, baby.
Free jazz.
It's like free jazz, baby.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead. We're gonna run into these questions real quick because that was my first one, and that was an awesome answer. So I'm gonna do the whole microphone transfer real quick. But what's your biggest fear right now? Like, what is the biggest fear you have right now? And I'm not talking about my boat running out of gas. I mean, it might be, but like, if there was something that was really on your plate right now as a human, what would be your biggest fear?
Oh God, honestly, my biggest fear is just the fear of just not having enough time. That's probably my biggest fear. Or like I'm one of those people who I've always kind of thought to myself, like, if I were to go right now, would I be content with how I lived my life? And for the most part, yes. You know what I mean? Like, for the vast majority, yes. But like, the adventure isn't done.
Yeah.
And it's I would say in some ways maybe it's far from done. So I want to go and keep pushing it as much as I absolutely can, so I can make that, are you content with how you lived your life? A resounding yes.
Hell yeah. Dude, freaking awesome answer, dude. It's one of those mind bending things right there. Like sitting there like, oh dude. There's a lot of points in there that I'm going to be dwelling on later, just because
I love it.
Thank you. Okay. Do you have a section about this? But I have a comment or a question here. It says, broke because of fishing. Have you ever bought so many Senko worms and forgot about your electric bill and been like, oh crap, or whatever, and just been out of money because of fishing?
That hasn't happened. Primarily because I oftentimes am using credit cards when I'm purchasing my gear. So I'll be like, I won't even really notice it. And then I'll get that statement at the end of the month. And I'm like, fuck. Okay. We just got to make a bigger payment toward this, like, or like a lot of the time it'll be like, slow your roll, asshole. Cause I'll see something and I'm like, I gotta get these. Like, there's certain times of the year. February's a good one for it because of the expos. Things like that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to get these or whatever. And then I always pick up like certain other stuff. Like I always update, I go through like my hooks if I need anything like that. Respooling all my reels and everything. I don't buy the bulk stuff and just keep it around. I don't necessarily know why, but I go and I'll buy a bunch of line, and shit like that. And I get prepped and ready. So like that transition from winter into spring, there's a lot. Last year saw me buying a lot of ultralight stuff because I was just getting into BFS in like the early part of the year, and I was going to all the local rivers that hadn't frozen, and I was fishing all that stuff there. When you fish by the bank, you lose statistically more baits than you do when you're in a boat or a kayak.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, yeah, you can't go get them.
That's exactly it. Yeah, you can't. You're like, all right, well, hopefully we'll snap this one off or we'll zing this one and it loosens up or whatever. But it's always a challenge. So that's usually for me, like the oh shit moment is like, oh, this is a higher balance than I thought. Well, maybe jumping on the Pig Jigs website that often, maybe you should have slowed down a little bit. It happens. These things happen.
It does.
And it's just money, man.
Just money.
It's just money.
True. I like it. I like that. What's your biggest struggle right now in life? Like what's Bobby, what's the Bobby Roastbeef struggle? Is it,
It's that challenge of the time with my work schedule, the work being here, taking all that, but knowing that I need to take time to be able to plan for future stuff. It's always this, like right now, the struggle is I feel like I'm chasing my tail. Like I'm working, not financially necessarily, just with time, because I want to do as much stuff for the podcast. As much stuff. Shouldn't even say the podcast, because like Jigs and Bigs is now, I think, even larger than just a podcast platform. Like between the YouTube channel and the other content that comes out from it and the live stuff and now the game show, it's like I need this to start actually really becoming like a main focal point, and I want to give more time to it. So I'm in this weird position where I'm sort of like rediscovering my value for what I do, and I'm trying to maximize the amount of effort I can put into Jigs and Bigs while still being out and grinding with all of my regular trivia accounts and all my other private events, things like that. So it's more of a balance struggle.
Hey, dude, that's the struggle. Like,
yeah,
I was trying to explain that the other day to somebody. They're like, "Hey, how do you do all this stuff?" And I'm like, "Balance." And they're like, "How do you get the balance?" I'm like, "I don't know. Let me know when you find out, because that's my."
That's exactly it. Yeah, you lean this way until you can't lean anymore, and when it starts tipping the other way, you got to follow it, or I run into this situation with my oldest daughter a lot, where she's like, I just like she's got some challenge with school, college, and being an adult, and having bills and responsibilities and things like that. So we're trying to get her to take a little bit more responsibility. And I find her saying things like, how is it that you manage doing this and this? And I was like, well, you just have to do it all. Like, it's just, you have to just make the decision that like, now this is my life,
Yeah.
I got to do something.
I don't think it sucks. All right. All right. I mean, you've answered it and we've talked about it in length, but I just want to hear you say it. Yeah. What's your life hammer, dude? Your major life accomplishment, the thing that you can beat on your chest and be like, I did that, dude. Like, I succeeded.
I would say for me, the big one was getting out of that job, getting out of television. Trivia changed everything. Really, really did.
That's awesome. That's
trivia awesome. Really did. And then with that, like, the podcast comes into that play as well, because situationally with COVID and everything, like springing back into like the life that I've currently got right now was a big one. Yeah.
Dude. Oh, fucking day. Beat your chest on that one, dude, because you turn lemons into a lifestyle. It's fucking awesome.
It was a lifestyle.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right. Have you ever learned a lesson on the water that you've implemented in your life, or learned a life lesson that you implemented on the water? I use the terrible example of patience, but like, is there ever something that you learned out there that you've like, oh, that is a good message for life?
Have you ever had a trouble hook stuck in your hand, Dave, when the fish was on the other side of that lure?
Yes.
Don't do that. That's my, in all honesty, the biggest lesson I've learned is that it's not a dick measuring contest. Use fish grips. Be safe. Those hooks are sharp.
I love it.
That's the biggest one, man, for me.
All right. Biggest mental or emotional block for you?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Biggest like mental block. A lot of the times I would like to say like either self-doubt or almost self-deprecation in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
Like,
go ahead.
Like just not believing in yourself. Like you're just like, what the, like, and some of this actually kind of shows up like with the content.
Mm-hmm.
With the content, like I've found myself having conversations with other content creators where we're just like, what the actual fuck is happening? like talking analytics and talking about like things that are performing, like, and so much of like the shit that I've learned about the content I can apply to like my mass media classes in college. And I'm like, no shit, you know, like there's just so much of it. Like the way that we measure um, performance. I had a conversation with a content creator friend of mine who said to me, like, oh, that video was so fun to make, but it's like a 6 out of 10. And it's just not doing what I need it to do. And there is a formula that can make it work. It's just that when you have creative people creating their content, literally, when you have them creating, you know, there's a passion that's there that they want a product to look and be a certain thing. And sometimes we kind of like can rate ourselves and second guess, like, well, that was stupid. I should have made, you know, I'll give you a perfect example. I had a reel, and actually even better, it totally outperformed on YouTube on shorts. Did you ever see the short that I posted? It was a woman sitting in a bed with a blindfold on, and she's like just kind of like anticipating something, like she's excited, and on top the text says, I told him he could tie me up and do whatever I wanted. And then it cuts, and it cuts in my on my short to me with my new largemouth PB, and I'm just like, caught him on the beef jig, on the beef craw, blah 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 blah.
Yes.
And it got something like some ridiculous number of views, like 10,000 views. You know what I mean? And I'm a small creator on that platform. I'm a small creator in general, really. But I'm looking at that and I'm just like, I know, like, people relate to that. It made them laugh.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm like, why can't I just put together something else like that? But when I saw that, I was like, no, let's remix that. That's the perfect storm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, I know that that's going to work. I called it. It was like, I called my shot in pool. You know, it was like, yep, corner pocket. And I'm like, boom. And I knew it was going to do well. And it did. I was surprised it didn't do as well on Instagram. You know,
yeah,
I thought that was the most interesting thing, that it did better on one platform than another. But just unbelievable.
I had that happen with my lick your knots video.
That's a good one, dude.
Yeah, it went crazy on YouTube Shorts for some random reason. I don't know why. Yeah. All right, cool. I'll take it.
Yeah, some people just, but it's so weird because like we fixate on this stuff, and there's a number of creators I've talked to, and we'll just like, hey, have you noticed like the most random shit? Like this took off. Like, what is it? And then we like analyze the stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like it would just be easier to just like keep churning something out and hope that it like eventually catches on. Yeah. You know, because I feel like we can live with ourselves that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So the block is basically the block is your creative you're maximizing your creativity, and yet the simple things that are non-creative are blowing up.
It's almost in the relationship between the two, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Like you're just like, holy shit. Like I remember, like I did the stuff with Moosehead. I mean, that was just, the visuals were amazing, you know? And meh. You know what I mean? I'm like, really?
I work my ass off at this. Yeah.
I'm just like, I put some work into organizing it to make it, you know, something stand apart. Although, you know what was ridiculous? Another one that just blew people's minds, I guess. Last year at the 100th episode, or 200th episode.
Yeah. We
did that party, and there was this thank you where we had a bunch of phone calls from the hotline, and a bunch of people had left messages and stuff. And I put together a little video, and at the very end, like at the end of the last phone call, it was like a picture of a dock with like just the water rippling out in front. And then the text kind of fades into place, and it says, Jigs and Bigs, thanks for, here's to another 200. Go fuck yourself. It was just perfect, man. It was just perfect. And like people responded. They were just like, yes,
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, ridiculous, man.
I love
Ridiculous.
it. All right. Last one. It's a 3-parter kind of.
Okay.
Health, dude. What are you doing for it? Hydration, diet, mental clarity? Like what are you looking at health wise?
So for health, I try to drink at 2 quarts of water a day, minimum. I used to gun for 100 ounces every day, and I'm just like, it's just not. I don't drink that much regular water all day. Like I drink a lot of coffee too, and a lot of fucking Diet Coke. But primarily, like that's what I do is I drink at least 2 of those 32-ounce Nalgene's a day.
Nice.
So hydration's huge. Like I can tell when I don't, like I really can. Health, there's a lot of things I could do to be much more healthy. It's one thing that I do actually am pretty strict on. I eat 1 vegetarian meal a day.
Really?
Yep.
That's really interesting. Wait, so you pick 1 meal a day and it's never the same meal, or is it just, whatever's available?
It's whatever's available for the most part, but yeah, I try to eat 1 like vegetarian based meal a day. Lots of times the cop out will be like breakfast. Like I'll make, peppers and eggs or something like that, or whatever vegetable we have, because like that's the thing. I like vegetables a lot. You know what I mean?
They're delicious.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no issues. I never have had any issues with like vegetables and stuff. Neither do any of my kids, really. Except I'm the only one in my house that likes tomatoes, which are fruits. But yeah, I'm the only one in my house. I'm like, for real? What is wrong with you guys? But yeah, I like
look at me like you take after your mother.
100%, 100%. As far as like mental health goes, dude, I have no idea where to even begin with that. Like, I like to think of myself as being relatively like well balanced. I've got my issues, you know what I'm saying? But like, it's nothing crazy. I for sure have some undiagnosed shit going on. You know what I mean? I think a lot of us do, especially at my age. You get to be in my bracket, dude. We got fucking, unresolved shit.
Yeah, it's finally cropping up. All the shit that happened in your 20s. Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, tell me about it. Well, Bobby, dude, thank you so much. I'm sorry I had such a sound problem at the end.
Oh, don't worry about it, man. It's all good.
Thanks for coming on, dude. I really appreciate you doing this, dude. And I had a lot of fun with you tonight, dude. Thank you.
I did too, man. This was a blast. I hope I wasn't babbling too much. I feel like that's something I tend to do.
No, dude. No, man. Bro, no, it was perfect. You fucking hit it out the park, man. Nice. I really appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much.
Awesome, dude. I appreciate you, Dave.
Dude, I appreciate you. I'm gonna let you sit in the green room for a second, and I'm gonna do like some sort of outro. I still don't know how I do that yet, but I just kind of talk for a second.
You got it, dude.
Music. So, all right, dude. Thank you. Oh, wait, hang on a second, Bobby. Where can everybody find you? Not only the Jigs and Bigs, but where can everybody find you?
I'm on Instagram as Jigs and Bigs and as Bobby Roastbeef. I've got Facebook pages for both of those. You guys can find me there too. I believe the Bobby Roastbeef one is DJ Bobby Roastbeef, and Jigs and Bigs. Everything is just all Jigs and Bigs. And then on YouTube, Jigs and Bigs 326.
Got it. All right. Well, dude, thank you again, Bobby.
Thank you, dude.
Enjoy the green room. I'll see you in a second.
Oh man, I hate when I have issues going on and I can't figure them out because I'm not that smart. This whole StreamYard thing's a new thing to me, but that was my buddy Bobby, and thank you, Bobby, for coming on, dude. You are a phenomenal human, and I cannot wait to see you in February, and I cannot wait to get you out here to California so we can be camping and fishing because, dude, we got both in droves out here. So, and for everybody else who's listening, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I don't really ask of anything of anybody besides, if you feel that there's anything that you've heard in here that you can relate to, hit me up, hit up Bobby, like just hit us up, dude, even with a, hey, I loved it. Or, just let us know, So I appreciate y'all for hanging in this long, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your week. This is coming out on Wednesday. So until then, enjoy the rest of your hump day.
What's up, everybody? From Walmart. We're back. We're back, baby, again.
Not a bad fish right there, guys. Oh, no. Out here catching Folsom bass right now, dude. Woo! He's a little